Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. It's our Friday Film Threat Livecast. I am Chris Gore from Film Threat. I'm going to turn that music down a little bit. Lots to talk about on the show today. A big show. We're going to discuss the MEG 2, The Trench, plus an indie film called Dreamin' Wild. Jackie Martling has a documentary out called Joke Man. It's a documentary about his comedy career. He will be on the show today, as well as producer Jeffrey Reddick talking to us about Till Death Do Us Part, another indie film playing in theaters this weekend. And I'll have an early review of Gran Turismo. Alan is going to be here. I know Alan is the favorite. Alan is, I was showing people last night memes of Alan, and everyone agreed Alan just has a very memeable face. Is that even a word? I have no idea. Let's get things started. Let's go. Typical. No Alan.
And she is the first female action hero ever in a movie.
Well, look, he's 19 years old. She's 32.
Whoa!
All right, I know the button to push to get Alan to show up.
Alan!
Well, there he is. What's going on, man? What's happening?
Hey, I'm tired.
Yeah, you had a long night last night. I was getting like emails from you like late.
Well, yeah. Good business.
Business.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, as much as it looks like we goof off around here, and we actually do goof around, maybe too much. We sometimes we have to do serious work.
Yeah. I mean, I had to leave my family to see the MEG 2.
Well, I know how much your family means to you.
My Lord, my God.
Dad, help me!
Oh,
I don't know where that came from. That's pretty weird. So,
Alan, Daddy, I hope you're okay with this guy, by the way. That last picture?
I don't know what's going on.
As staring at my daughter's cleavage. That's
Hi, Dad, I miss you!
She's just all over. I know how much your daughter means to you and your family.
Yeah.
And so there we are. Let's see who's in the chat before we kick things off today, as I am pre-coffee. You're not a coffee guy, Alan, are you?
No, I'm not. I don't have a lot.
Wait a sec. Let me guess. Can I have one guess? Do you like tea?
I do like tea. Because I'm Asian. For one.
That's exactly why. That's why you like tea. All right.
Yes, I like dried leaves and boiled water.
Yeah. Kernak has become a YouTube member. Thank you for that. Jim Watari is also a new member. Solomon Thornton, if you're ready for Film Threat, give me a hell yeah. Hell yeah. And Imperfect Film Threat, heck yeah. Heck yeah is acceptable. Lord Thoth, one of our trusty mods. We thank you, Lord Thoth. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. I always forget to say that. And there are these much more professional shows than ours, much more professional, that like they have like little graphics that come up. Hit the bell for notifications. And remember to subscribe. And I kind of feel like a dork whenever I say stuff like that. I haven't said the word dork since junior high, but I feel like we need. Yeah, that's right. I feel like maybe I need to do that more, so that we get up to 169,000. I actually think it's possible we could reach 100,069 soon.
Yes,
soon.
I mean, we're trending that way, definitely.
Bill S. Preston Esquire says, I love this thumbnail. Imperfect goes on to say, I'm going to beg the guys to watch the Slaughterhouse trailer on stream. I think Chris will love it. I am aware of this film, Slaughterhouse, and I think it looks very good. And I do plan to see it. We'll see. We don't have a lot of time on the show today. We have a lot of movies to review, and we're going to do our best. Maybe Wednesday. Wednesday show's a little looser. But thank you, Imperfect, for the suggestion. Happy Friday, FT Squad, says Eric Henson. Mike MC Wong. Hell yeah, I love Friday mornings. Hello, all. TMNT sucked, and Meg 2 is surprisingly entertaining. The best new movie this weekend I have seen is Shortcomings. Have not seen Dreamin' Wild yet. Well, there you go.
Yes.
We'll discuss. Previews for the Meg 2 looked really good. I was surprised, says Eric Henson. Shuxy says, thank God it's DVD Friday. Wait. By the way, I released another episode of DVD Tuesday on Thursday about a documentary called Raiders, which is the documentary about the kids who made the homemade Raiders of the Lost Ark film. Have you seen that, Alan?
I haven't. I know of it, but I've not seen it.
It's really good. You know what? One of the best parts about that movie are all the experts that they interviewed, and I might have been one of them.
Well, now.
I'm actually in that movie. Yeah. I made a list because I was like, God, I really show up in a lot of documentaries, and I always get messages from people. And yeah.
Well, I will say your best one is the Fantastic Four documentary.
Yes, Doomed, which I believe is on Amazon Prime. John Long, last name. I liked the Meg 2. It was fun. Mike MC Wong says, movie night tomorrow doing Meg and Johnny to Mission 1999. Hoping Chris will bring Fantastic Four and AOTD. Here's the reminder. Waiting to test and christen the popcorn machine. All right, I'll be there. Leo Cody says, shut up, Meg. I like that. Very clever. You can blame Glenn Brown. Let's see. This is okay. From Rumble, B Mo Better sub supporter. Chris Gore is a dork and Alan is rad.
Yeah.
I like to think that if Alan and I were friends in junior high, that we would sit in the back of the class just trying to make each other laugh. And Alan would get good grades and I would have to work hard.
Yeah. And we probably would have made a movie at some
We probably would have made a movie, like a cheesy Super 8 movie. Thoughts on Talking Heads Stop Making Sense, says Brand Brindlebeard 3 for 199. Yes, I love that film. It's directed by Jonathan Demme. I saw it in original theatrical release, and I really enjoyed it. And I saw the Talking Heads. I don't want to say recently. It might have been like 10 years ago at the Hollywood Bowl. A lot of fun, but I've always enjoyed that film. It's a classic. And it's a concert film. So, yeah. Hey, it's me and HD has become a YouTube member. And Toxic Waltz N8 says, watched Witness 1985 for the first time the other day. Pretty good, but you got to watch it in context of when it came out. Cliches have to start somewhere. Yep.
I really like that film. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a different time. There's a manga about a shark which can use the power of every bad shark horror film in a fantasy world fighting a demon lord's army. I've been reading. Very excited about Meg 2 review, says Zavin. And Hank V says, Alan is the glue that holds Film Threat together. Well, I couldn't do the show without him. Geek Truth 64 says, I thought the first Meg movie was dumb fun, but never anticipated a sequel. We're going to get to it.
Yeah.
I'm almost through. We have 900 starred chat comments. It's only 900. I'll get through it. MK Solid 82. We need an erotic pit up of Alan on Discord. Hey, AI is good for something. The phone, Kate's meme. The phone. I have no idea.
Kate. I think it's Phoebe Cates. Maybe there's a autocorrect in there.
You need to show that more. We're not going to show that.
Yeah.
We're not going to show that for various reasons. Let's see. All right. Greasy Guido's been a member for 9 months. Scarier way to go, shark or octopus? Why settle? Why not Sharktopus? Why do you have to be limited? Alan is the J of Film Threat. Does that make me Silent Bob? I'm the one that talks too much.
No, I think he means Drunk 3PO.
Oh, right, Drunk 3PO. No, and no disrespect to Jay, but I think Alan's really smart.
Oh, geez. I mean, I am.
I love Jay. Jay is like Jay is, and this is a compliment. Please stay with me on this. Jay, or Drunk 3PO, is a himbo. And he has the biggest heart. He's a himbo, very good looking man, tall in stature, could crush me between his two thumbs, but he's the nicest, sweetest guy on the planet.
Yes.
He's
you got to show up your backhand now.
What? No, I really and he has the biggest heart. He's like in
Absolutely.
The Wizard of Oz, Jay would be the Tin Man. He has the biggest heart. So, and I would be Mo from the Three Stooges, or I would be Ren from Ren and Stimpy, and Alan would be Stimpy. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Alan,
I'm definitely not Jay from Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah. Jay. Yeah, no. Zavin says Alan Mugswell. Scott Gordon, remember, Chris is on BC time before coffee. I have to get a second cup. In the middle of the show. You're gonna have to take over, Alan, and I gotta get a second cup. This stream will be mega amazing, says Greasy Guido. And John Long, last name, says Meg 2 was like Under Siege, Jurassic World, and Pitch Black had a movie baby mixed with some Jaws. You took the words right out of my mouth. We'll get into it.
By the way, we should mention that that Jurassic Shark 3, The Seavenge, came out just a few weeks ago. So don't get the two movies confused.
Wait, Jurassic Shark 3, The Seavenge.
Yes. Yeah, we just put a review up for it recently, like a couple days ago.
Well, there you go. All right. I think it's time. Alan, we're going to do a quick review of a film that you have seen that I have not.
Yes.
And that movie is The Highest of Stakes.
Yeah, I do it. I guess I didn't put a photo up there. Yeah, Highest of Stakes. Big reason we're reviewing it is it is exclusive to Regal theaters, so it's showing at Regal's starting today. It's a documentary about, well, the way I pose it is this: is a man a con man if he tells you up front that he's conning you? This is the Highest of Stakes is the story of Richard Hart, who is the creator and founder of Hexcoin, a cryptocurrency, and it just kind of goes through his life as most would. It does delve into this cryptocurrency, but the thing is this movie is just as much as a character study of the man as it is. You know, at some point it feels like it's an infomercial for Hexcoin, but it really isn't. But what's interesting about Richard Hart is he's probably one of the most charismatic men in the world, and he knows his stuff about finance. He predicted 3 of the big cryptocurrency crashes when other people thought Bitcoin was going to go up. He predicted it would go down. He created this thing called Hexcoin, and he created a community called Hexagons, and he's made these people millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, and now people are going after him because, like I said, if you know a guy is a con man, does that make him a con man? If he tells you he's a con man before you go and invest in his stuff, does that make him a con man? And is Hexcoin a Ponzi scheme? Or because you know it is, does that make it a Ponzi scheme? And it goes pretty in depth about the idea of Hexcoin. And let's just say that they're very upfront about it. It's a Ponzi scheme, but you know that going in, and it makes it clear that everyone who invests in this thing knows it. And so, what I just like about this movie is this guy's a fascinating character, and I've mentioned it before. I'm into just understanding people, and this is a really unique person. He is a, one person describes him as a cult leader, and it definitely feels that way. And so I would give it a shot just to look at it. This is not an endorsement of any kind into Hexcoin, but it goes really in depth into it. And then lastly, I should mention the publicist reached out to me yesterday, wanting to let everybody know that Richard Hart is just got sued by the SEC 2 days ago, and it's interesting that he's sued and not necessarily under investigation, but interesting. So yeah, I would. if you like character studies, if you want to hear an interesting story, if you kind of want to understand a little bit of the world of cryptocurrency, this is the movie to watch. All right. Yeah, so I guess Chris is still getting his thing. This when I posted the review, this is the message I got a lot. I have Hex. A lot of people saying that they are investors in it. A lot of people saying it is a Ponzi scheme, while at the same time saying the U.S. dollar is a Ponzi scheme. I think one of the things in terms of a broader picture is that it gets into the state of the U.S. dollar, the world currency, and it's kind of scary. Let's see, Spidey Sensei 72 tried warning my friends that crypto was a scam. None of them listened, and they all lost money. Yeah, at the moment, again, this is based on what the websites say and what they purport, but Hex has not lost money yet. So, again, not an endorsement. We are not a financial.
No, we're not a financial.
We're just reviewing a movie.
Well, I'll say this: I did see recently the trailer for Dumb Money, and it looks awesome. It looks. Have you seen this trailer?
I have. That's kind of like the Big Short kind of movie.
Yeah. It's about the GameStop debacle, and it's oh my god, the GameStop stock or stonks, whatever you want to call it, hold the line. I saw a documentary about the GameStop situation, and it just it looks so good. It looks so good, in spite of the fact that Pete Davidson's in the movie
and Seth Rogen.
They're in the film. I mean, it's like a bunch of character actors. I mean, it's an ensemble thing, but it looks really good. Dumb Money, that trailer looks fantastic, so I plan to see it. But yes, I am one of the people that I kind of dipped my toe into the crypto thing, and I kind of felt like, I don't know. I think, But quick comment here from the Introspect M says, all crypto is speculation. That doesn't really make it a scam any more than speculating on anything of no practical value, especially if you think it could be practical one day. I mean, I really think that, to me, look, if you want to win at stocks, ultimately, you got to play the long game. You got to buy the dip. You got to get in there, and you get in early, and then you hold for like 10 years, and that's when stuff kind of pays out, and there you go. So, and I'm telling you this as someone who knows nothing, so don't take any of my advice seriously.
Yeah. One of the things I mentioned about Richard Hart and the highest of stakes is, is it possible for a cult leader to be good and benevolent? I think that's the way he's trying to portray himself. In a way, the film kind of leans into that, and so it's just a fascinating character study of a person. And again, that's why I'm drawn to this documentary.
So would you recommend the doc?
I would absolutely recommend it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pivot. We're going to pivot to talking
but it's
about,
not for you to invest in crypto, just in terms of knowing the guy.
Oh, okay. All right, good. All right. Let's pivot for a second. Let's talk about the MEG 2, The Trench. Okay, I saw the original MEG. I believe it was 2018 this movie came out. No expectations whatsoever. Went and saw it at the Regal in 4DX. And you know what 4DX is, Alan?
Yeah, I've been on that many times.
4DX is like watching a movie while being on a theme park ride. You get these special 4DX chairs. You can even actually change the settings. You can turn off the wet, and you can dial back the sort of intensity. I go full intensity. I don't care. And what's cool about these chairs is they kind of like move you around. They vibrate. They if there's an explosion, it kind of throws you back and the chair shakes. It's I like 4DX. I know it's a gimmick, but it works for certain movies. And they'll even do like water effects, so you'll feel like a little spray on you if they're like jet skiing or whatever. You'll feel like a spray. The whole audience, it is cheesy. You pay a premium. It's like $30 to see a 4DX.
It's not that much. It's not that much.
Well, it used to be $30. Yeah. It used to be $30, but now it's part of, they have all these programs, right? So,
I'll say I saw Top Gun Maverick in 4DX, and it was amazing.
see, that would also be a fun movie in 4DX. So I saw the Meg in 4DX, and I knew it was a dumb movie. Jason Statham, what's his character's name? Jonas.
Yeah.
It's super cheesy. It's bad. And I had so much fun with the first Meg because I knew what it was. It's like those movies on Sci-Fi Channel where they just get increasingly ridiculous. Or you mentioned earlier, Jurassic Shark 3, Seavenge. Like, I know what I'm getting into. In fact, I think maybe they could just go cheesier with the titles. Okay. But I like the first Meg. I think, especially when it gets to the end and it's like you've got the cute little dog, all the vacationers, they're all in peril. It's, it's harmless fun. And it's also harmless fun while also it's not a great movie, but it's a movie that knows what it is. And the Meg 2, The Trench, is even more over the top. It's like, it's twice the Meg, so to speak. And I knew it was bad as I'm watching him, and it's like super cheesy. It starts out with, it's like a super cheesy plot with like Jonas's character is now part of this organization that they're like, eco warriors. So he's the good guy. And I don't even know the names of the characters. The Asian CEO guy who's like, has sort of kind of made friends with a Meg that, what's the name of the Meg that they have?
Oh, it's a weird name and I don't remember.
Hashi. I think it's Hashi.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Hashi, that they've raised from like a pup. So, but it's enclosed in this space. Well, things go awry on a mission where they discover there's secret mining that's happening underneath where they are at this science research facility, and they're secretly mining precious metals from under the ocean, making billions of dollars right under their nose. So they're in conflict with not just several Megs. There's like 3 Megs by the end of the film that they have to contend with. In addition to an octopus, in addition to these almost raptor-like alligators, and the CG is bad, and they have to deal with these rogue miners who are armed to the teeth going after them. So they have to survive all of that, along with basically Alan's daughter is in the movie. There's a young girl who's tagged along, right? So it's super dumb. The audience laughed through the whole thing. And what's interesting about this film is half the movie's in Chinese with subtitles. Now, I don't care. I watch movies with subtitles all the time. I thought it was terrible, and I had a great time. Does that make sense? It's sort of like going to, have you ever been to like the LA County Fair? It's awful. It's the worst. The rides are dumb. And there are people, and there's balloons and terrible food. And I love it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that kind of thing. So did I have a good time watching the Meg 2, The Trench? 100%. Was it a good movie? Hell no. There's so much logic you can pick apart. It just gets super dumb, especially at the end when the Asian CEO becomes there's like literally the cliche of running away from the giant CG explosion in the background. Like it's just utterly ridiculous. What I am surprised about, just to point out a couple things, and I want to get your take, Alan. How many women died in this movie?
Oh yeah.
There were a lot. I mean, there's like there. I didn't like the sort of first half of the movie was very dark because it takes place under the ocean, and they have these like suits that are like these almost power suits that they can be that deep under the ocean. All science is out the window, by the way. Nothing makes sense in it. But like a lot of women die. So I do like that this is an equal opportunity exploitation movie. Normally there's like types of people where you're like, well, they're not going to kill that character. They're not going to kill that character. And the other character I really liked in the movie was, I didn't know his name, I'm just going to say it, the black guy. The black guy was great. He was great. He's got like this backpack with all his stuff. He's prepared for this. Like, I'm ready to go. He's got poison tipped bullets in his gun, and he makes a reference to Jaws 2. It's stupid. This is a stupid movie. This movie earned its 0% rating, critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And to me, that's always like, it's either a red flag or like, oh, I have to see this now. I have to see how bad it is. I will say this. I think it could go more ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like I like trauma movies know how to do that. They go over the top and then they go double over the top. So I thought it was fun. And then the last third of the movie is when it really gets over the top. Like the before stuff wasn't over the top, where they go to this resort called, it loosely translates to Fun Island. It's an Asian name, but it's Fun Island. And it's all these like, I mean, there are a couple like really gratuitous, not complaining, gratuitous shots of women in bikinis running. Women in bikinis running, which not gonna complain about at all. It's almost reminiscent of like it's almost reminiscent of that in a sense. So there you go. I thought it was a great time at the movies. Not a good movie. Probably rate it like a 4 or a 5, but it's weird to recommend a movie that I've rated so low. Had a great time. Know what you're getting into. You know what helps too? Just a couple drinks. I did not drink while seeing the film, but I thought, boy, this could sure use a couple of good beers. So, Alan, what did you think of the MEG?
You would recommend it, but give it a 4.
Well, it's terrible. I mean, it's at every level, it's terrible, but that's like trauma. All trauma films are like that.
Mm-hmm.
All trauma films are like this.
Yeah.
They're all just, I mean, and some of the cheesy stuff, like, oh my God, like the stuff with the, at the end with the helicopter.
Yeah.
The stuff with Jason Statham. He's trying to take out, he's got 3 MEGs. He's got a jet ski and he's got these explosive spears. It's Jason Statham battling 3 MEGs and all he's got is a jet. And it's just, oh my God, there's one shot. The audience just laughed and clapped. It was full screening, by the way, in the Dolby Digital Cinema. And he's jumping on the jet ski. He's sort of like riding a wave and he's got like the spear and it's explosive and like he just sort of going for the MEG. I do think someone mentioned in our group, and I agree, there could have been more creative kills, but oddly the movie is rated PG-13. So I think an R-rated version of this that goes super over the top in terms of the gore would be better. I do actually think I like the Sharknado movies a lot. I really enjoy those films. We've interviewed the director and creator of Sharknado on the Film Threat channel. Look it up. It's Anthony C. Ferrante. And by the way, he used to write for Film Threat in the 90s. And then he's the creator of the Sharknado series. A lot of people pass through Film Threat and then go on to creator success.
So, yeah. So if you want to write for Film Threat, visit us at filmthreat.com/contact, and you will be the next franchise god.
Well, you will be the next person who Alan will someday get to your email.
Yes, one day.
All right. But Alan, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I had fun, but it's very popcorn. It's a very popcorn movie. There's not a lot of depth to it. I do like the fact. Okay, so one of the benefits I had was I saw it in 3D, and I think for the most part, it's a pretty good movie to see in 3D. But they do exploit it a little bit up at the beginning, but it kind of lays back, and I think it works well in the water sequences. It's kind of one of those things that there were all these movies back in the day that I thought were cool, and then they kind of brought all those cool movies together in this. For example, I think the first half of the movie is a lot like The Abyss. And then at the end, it becomes this kind of Jaws, Crazy Rich Asians, Jurassic Park kind of mashup. And, it's funny because when I saw Jaws and Jurassic Park and Abyss, I thought those were really cool movies. And to kind of see it in this and realize, wow, it's not as cool as I thought it was. But again, just had fun. I will say this, though. I had more fun with this movie than Fast X. And the biggest reason is the cast of characters they get together. Of course, they're friends. They're going to joke together. They're going to bust each other's balls. And I thought they did a really good job building this kind of chemistry and this kind of rapport with one another that was a lot of fun to watch and not cringeworthy and groan-worthy like Fast X was. They were there just to have fun. They weren't there to kind of, be a star of a multi-billion-dollar movie. So there we go. I had a good time, but at some point, I want a little bit more depth to my movies. So I'll go with that.
That's first of all, that's a fair point. Totally fair point. But look, I feel like also with you cannot with a straight face tell anyone this is a good movie. It's 0% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I've seen better movies that attempt to do this. I'm saying I had fun at this movie. Know what it is. If you know what it is, look, it ain't Oppenheimer. Okay. This movie will win 0 awards. So there you go. But
if you're trying to get out of the summer heat, this is a great movie to just kind of sneak into an air-conditioned movie theater and watch.
Yeah, the best thing about this movie is the popcorn and air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Let's go to your comments and questions here. Pilgrim Media for 2 says, Meg 2, big, dumb, fun. We need them. Yeah. There's nothing about this movie that's woke.
Mm-hmm.
0.
Well, what about the Chinese being so concerned about the environment? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I go there?
Yeah. First of all, that's a contradiction to reality.
I know. I'm like, here's this Chinese institute that's so concerned about the ocean and the environment. I'm like,
yeah. That's
all right.
Yeah. Wait a second.
We know who's paying for this movie.
Are you running photos of you in the background on your screen?
Yeah. Well, I live kind of out in the outskirts of Orange County, and they built a Regal near my house, and no one goes to that Regal. For some reason, it survived the mass closing of all the Regal theaters. And I got to see when I show up 5 minutes before the theater, there's no one there. And then ultimately a few people showed up. But, so many people didn't show up to this movie that the theater staff forgot that it was 3D, and they had to go into the warehouse in the back room and get all the 3D glasses for this movie.
All right, more comments here. Wes Shenanigans for 5. It's almost like Zucker, Abrams, Zucker with them doing ridiculous things with a straight face. 100%. 100%. Mike MC Wong, it is funded by Chinese. You think? I mean, half the cast is Chinese. Most of the people at the resort are Asian. There is this sort of like cheesy, sort of ugly American white dude that's kind of like talking to these. I thought it was funny.
But you know he's gonna die.
You knew he was gonna die. I love it.
And who didn't die? And the trope of this I would say person.
Don't say it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's a trope, and you knew that person.
Oh, you knew that person was gonna die. Latino Slant, Paulie, hey, had a blast watching it. Thank you for that. And on Rumble, BMO Better sub supporter says, did Alan like the Asians in Meg 2? Alan?
Yeah, you know what? I did like the Asians in it. I'm glad we're in this movie and not in Snow White like everybody else is.
They literally have. It's someone. What was it? I think it was Az from Heel versus Babyface said it was brown Snow Brown and the Baristas of Portland or something. It was just like, that movie is going to tank so bad. I think people are just going to see it out of curiosity.
I saw the photo and I'm like, there's no Asians in this movie. And I'm like, I'm good with that.
For once.
I know. It's like, you guys,
oh my God,
have fun with your Snow White. We'll watch Meg too.
Okay, more comments here. Sons and Shadows, who's a member, thank you for that. Meg does not need some complex plot with layers of psychological drama. Of course.
Yeah. No, it's just an action movie. It's just an action movie. That's all we want. No
and Imperfect says Chris forgot what it was like to see women die in movies because they don't these days. It's like, well, we can't have the women die, only white guys. And it's just like the Chinese are like, yeah, we don't care. And I love it. There's like several, which is more than 2 female characters that die in this. And there's even some really bizarre fun shots where you see the POV of inside the mouth of a Meg scooping up people. It's crazy.
Just chomping away like a lawnmower.
Gun Ho Mac, so bad it's good, like Taco Bell at 2 a.m. Oh my God, I did that the other night. True story. One Punch Man Tolkien fan, 0 rating. Now I have to check it out. Matt W says, China tricking people with tits. Well, first of all, fool me once, keep fooling me. If it involves boobs, keep fooling me.
Yeah, I don't think China does nudity, if I'm not mistaken.
And from Rumble, Faux sent a $2 Rumble rant. Well, thank you.
I misspelled it, Faux.
Yeah. Faux. Thank you for that. And Aaron Taylor, Chris Gore is getting very liberal with his recommendations. Who starred that? I assess, first of all, I assess every movie. Based on what it is. Look, the Meg 2 The Trench is not aspiring to win Oscars. Okay. It knows what it is. Sometimes a movie doesn't even kind of know what it's trying to be, or you see too many cooks. And I'm not giving it a stellar review. I'm saying it's stupid fun. So there you go.
Yeah.
You know?
I also think that being funded by the Chinese means that there's no woke American messaging that has to be shoved into it.
Correct. John Long last name says, see, Chris is going to give this movie a 6 before the end of the stream. So John Long last name. I did. I said 5 or 6. 5? Like, it's like a 5.
No, you said 4. No, you said 4, and now you just raise it to 5 or 6.
Whatever. It's okay. How many beers have you had before the movie? That increases the rating. Razor Burns says, Chris, was Hitomi Tanaka wearing a bikini in this movie? I know who you're talking about. She is not in this film, but there are a couple gratuitous shots. And do not Google Hitomi Tanaka. Wes Ray says, I think after those photos leaked, Snow White has to go directly to Disney Plus. It has no theatrical path to victory. I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I would. 100%.
If Disney was smart, they would just shut it down right now.
You think so?
They're holding out for all this force majeure stuff. They could easily just shut the thing down.
Gotcha.
Save a lot of money.
People in the chat are saying that the audio is stuttering. Is it stuttering now? Is it better? Let us know if it's better. It's usually a temporary thing, and it's a StreamYard thing. StreamYard or internet. There's really not much you can do with the stuttering other than leave and come back. Sons and Shadows says no, audio is fine. Thank you for that. Yeah, and then Kevin says Chris gets his Asian card for that comment. Yes, I know who Hitomi Tanaka is. Alan does not know who that is.
No, and I'm not. It's going to ruin my internet if I try to look it up.
Do not Google that. Do not Google.
Dad, help me.
Well, there you go. That's it happens sometimes. So, all right. Last few comments before we pivot. Zavin says Chris is a man of culture. True. I agree with Chris's system. A guy in his room. You have to assess, like, look, the Meg 2 is not an A24 film, okay? Although A24 is pretty broad. They do horror films, comedies. They have their first musical coming out. It's you know, I sort of assess, I take each movie at face value and assess, like, what is this movie attempting to be? You know, you can't look at Kevin Smith's Clerks and judge it against a Michael Bay action movie. You know, like Transformers, you have to look at each film for what am I? It's like you look at it, it's like, here's the packaging, judge it based on the packaging. What is it attempting to be?
Well, I mean, I kind of look at it from the aspect of, you know, what were they trying to attempt to do? If they were trying to be a serious movie, they failed in every way, but that's not what they tried to do. You know, it was just action, one action set piece to the other, bring the Megs in. And the question there becomes, you know, was it done in a cheesy way? Were you groaning? Were you rolling your eyes? And throughout the whole film, I wasn't doing any of that. Well, so I would give it a recommendation. I would tell people to go see it
if they like that kind of movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they like that kind of movie,
it's like if I saw a musical and told people I liked it. I know people who don't like musicals, and so I would say not to do it. Not to see
before we talk about some of our other films today, we have a lot of movies to talk about. I want to share something I found really inspiring, and that is as of Heel versus Babyface received his copy of Attack of the Dock in the UK. We have this week completed the shipping of every order, unless you ordered it today or yesterday. We ship them out within a few days of being ordered. And I am pleased that not only did Az receive his copy of Attack of the Dock, look at his face. I don't want to make any assumptions about the effect that this movie has on people, but Az is a miserable person, mainly because he has seen every episode of Batwoman on the CW. But setting that aside for a moment, I think this film that is now for sale at attackofthedock.com, or you can go to shop.filmthreat.com. You can get the t-shirt that I'm wearing, the t-shirt that Alan's wearing. You can grab a Film Threat coffee mug. I think this may increase happiness by more than 10, maybe 10, 20%. Look at the smile on Az's face as he poses with his copy of Attack of the Dock, which many of you have not ordered yet. I'm talking to you, people watching this live, the more than 500 people watching this live. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. But look at how happy he is. Look how happy Az is. Alan, no response. Come on, help me out here.
No, he looks great. My question is, would he have seen Attack of the Show when it first came out?
I don't know if he watched it when it first came out. I know he's aware of G4 and did a lot of videos on the new G4, but I just appreciate Az. I watch his channel. I find him watching. I find watching him playing video games both hilariously entertaining and stressful at the same time.
Yeah.
So, which is why we're, I'm not going to do a gaming stream. I'll screw up on my own time. But I just want to thank Az also for purchasing the film, and all of you that have purchased Attack of the Dock. I really appreciate it. It was a labor of love, and the Blu-ray, I just put filled to the brim, a dual layered disc. So thank you for that. And there we are. I love the prequels. I have boobs. Harry Coinslot, harrycoinslot.com. I have no idea what that is, but that might be an Easter egg on the disc. So there you go. And the other thing is, okay, so before we talk about we have a couple more films to talk about. Our next trial is coming up. Our next trial, and as decided by you, the jury, the viewers of the show, our next trial will be Star Trek, and there are already memes. There are already memes. That is me, of course, as Q from the very first episode. Q, played by John Delancey, from the very first episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Our next trial will be Star Trek, and recently they released a musical episode of Strange New Worlds that I think we can't get to this trial fast enough at this point. But the fact that people are already making memes, I think that comes from our Discord. So thank you, Portland 182, Leo Cody, our own Film Threats Legion of Memers. We appreciate you on our Discord. If you become a member of the channel, you get access to our Discord. Look at the community tab for members, and then also giveaways. We're doing in the next week, we're doing like 3 giveaways for digital copies of movies. So pay attention to that on the members community tab. But I don't think this Star Trek trial can come fast enough. I only saw clips online, and they had the Klingons doing boy band music. And Robert Meyer Burnett suggested the Klingons, it's obvious they should be doing opera. They should be doing opera. And they didn't. So very disconcerting.
So I think this is the jump the shark moment for Star Trek.
To tie into the MEG 2.
Yes.
Some real quick comments before we move on. We've got 3 more movies to review, and I hope we get to it before we get to our interview subjects. But here we go. Aaron Taylor says, what's Chris Gore's opinion on Mark Commode, particularly his system of 2 laughs in a movie being a recommendation? Yeah, I don't think that's good enough for me for a recommendation. If it's a comedy, you got to have more than 2 laughs, you know? And it depends on how big of a laugh. Is it like a laugh that gets like a laugh and like a big applause from an audience? But yeah, that's not. Your mileage may vary. That's why I love to get various opinions on films. One of the things, there's a woman. I kind of realized I don't actually know her real name. There's a
Grace Randolph.
No, Grace Randolph. I watched because shake my head and think, why is she so popular? But there's a woman on YouTube. Strongly recommend her channel. Her channel is Deep Focus Lens. She is an artist, and she approaches her reviews very seriously. I don't think she takes herself seriously. She seems to have a good sense of humor about herself. And I've been following her for years and watched her channel's not big, but gets like big views. Well, her channel's no respectable size. But what I mean is like, I really love to check in when she reviews something. She reviewed Sound of Freedom recently. Why did I say Sound of Fury? Sound of Freedom. And she gave it a very, like, I think a sober-minded review. She's like, all the political posturing about this movie is nonsense. It's just not a very good film. And she laid out why. She didn't like it. I disagree, but I have maybe, being a father to a son and a daughter, the movie hits different, as the kids like to say. But I really like her reviews. And somehow somebody noticed, and I've been following her for years, and we had a brief exchange on Twitter. Strongly recommend Deep Focus Lens. But, Mark Kermode, I actually have never heard of Mark Kermode. And I watch a variety of YouTubers, okay? I watch people I disagree with. I watch people I agree with. And the people I like, sometimes I don't agree with. That includes Alan. Wizard Shack, Jason Statham has some competition now with Az. Yeah, Az looking good. Congrats to Az. I love that he's getting in shape, taking control of his health. He looks good, and he looks happier. And look, if I can just help by sending him a Blu-ray that he purchased, that's all. I love that. Ken Bogus has been a member for 12 months. Saw Attack of the Doc. I recommend it. Mark Kermode is a BBC critic, says Goober. Well, thank you for that. I'm unaware of Mark, but there you go. All right. Time to pivot. We're going to pivot. Wait, I got to get... Alan didn't get all the, Alan does the show prep, and I don't know that he did all of the movies that we're talking about today.
I thought we did.
Did you get Dreamin' Wild in here? You didn't. You didn't get Dreamin' Wild.
Dreamin' Wild's there. No pictures though.
That's what I'm saying. The pictures aren't here.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if we were actually doing it or not.
Well, it's in the list. If it's in the list, just prep it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We're going to talk about a movie called Dreamin' Wild. And Dreamin' Wild, wait a second. I'm going to. Dreamin' Wild is an independent film. It's being released by Roadside Pictures in limited release this weekend. It is the true story of two brothers, Donnie and Joe Emerson, who in the late 70s, early 80s were kids, and they were musicians who did one album. They actually self-produced an album called Dreamin' Wild. And these kids, they were literally teenagers who were very passionate musicians. And Donnie Emerson, who's played by the older version of Donnie, is played by Casey Affleck in the film. Walton Goggins plays the brother Joe. They're very close as brothers. They did this one album in the late 70s, and it bombed. And their father, Don Sr., played by Beau Bridges, he had this huge farm, 700 acres, ended up selling most of it to finance his son's dream, and it went nowhere. Donnie Emerson, as a kid, went off to Hollywood to be a success. Nothing happened. It drained Don Sr. of his bank account, and that was it. Donnie later grew up. He's in his 40s. He's happily married with kids to his wife, Nancy, played by Zooey Deschanel. They're this musical act that play weddings and, small bars, and they're very happy playing and performing music. They do covers, obviously it's a wedding, they do covers, but they play original music. And suddenly, out of the blue, a record executive played by Chris Messina shows up, and he says, look, by the way, people have been posting songs from Dreamin' Wild online. It's huge. This is like in 2011. So they went from the late 70s. They weren't even a one-hit wonder. And, the thing nearly bankrupted the family. The album came out. There are like tons of albums sitting in a warehouse. And this character, Matt Sullivan from a small record company, comes out and says, look, by the way, people are going nuts for this. They're going crazy. They've rediscovered, and he wants to not only re-release the album, but put the band on tour. The thing is that while Donnie continues to play music, his brother Joe has kind of moved on. He's, works the farm. He's, not really kept up with playing the drums. Not quite there, but they want to get the band back together and go on tour. This is a true story, and the movie is based on an article from the New York Times, and it's fascinating. Fascinating. And the other thing I really enjoyed about this movie is it's sort of the reverse of like Go for Your Dream. It's the go for your dream and you get the dream. What happens when you go for your dream and you don't achieve it? What happens in the end? Awesome performances by Casey Affleck and Zooey Deschanel, who play and sing in the movie. Walton Goggins I've always liked in things. Same thing with Beau Bridges. And they kind of contrast. They show the like younger characters. So they show like the brothers as kids mirroring with the brothers now in their late 40s, kind of like after life has hit them hard and things have not gone well for them. And then they have kind of a second chance. Check out the trailer for Dreamin' Wild. It's online. It's in limited release in theaters. It's directed by Bill Poland. I love this film. I think it's a little long, if I could just say that. It's kind of a little long. But what I also loved about this movie is, and we talked about this a couple times, Alan, I miss religion being a part of films as like a moral center. By the way, this is not a religious movie by any means, but the characters in the movie are religious. Don Sr. is religious. The characters are religious. They say a prayer before they go out on stage. they're not pushing religion. It's not a religious story, but the characters are religious, and they're Christians, and it's just part of the movie, and it's not a big part. There's only a couple things in the film, and I found it refreshing because you never see it. These are good people who lived a hard life, and they get this second chance to have a big musical career. It's really an inspiring, sweet film. It's also under 2 hours, okay? But it takes its time, and I've always liked Casey Affleck. By the way, Casey Affleck is an Oscar winner. People forget this. Always like Casey Affleck. And, there were some Me Too allegations about him that I have no idea if it was never very clear, but I'm really happy to see that he's back as an actor. Really enjoyed this film, and I recommend that you check it out. Again, a go for your dream story that tells a different type of tale. So there you are. Alan, I know you didn't see the film, but I'm
sorry.
No, but I think I sent you a screener link to it. So I hope we get a review on the website. It's sweet. And it's the kind of movie Hollywood used to make. The fact that this movie had to be made low budget, outside the system, a very good cast. It just reminds me also of a lot of people I knew from Michigan. I had a lot of friends that were in bands in Michigan, and, almost a similar story. They all did like music and albums and whatnot. So, and then, they were locally famous, but they never became nationally famous. And it's a true story. You can look up the story of these guys. You can listen to their music. Look up Dreamin' Wild. Really, really fascinating. And I enjoyed the film.
I mean, I do like the return of these small budget, even studio films. I don't know why movies need to be, $100 million, $200 million. Why can't we return back to the $30 million, $50 million movie?
Yeah, no, this is a very low budget film. And I just think it had a sweetness and a heart and someone mentioned, I think that we've reached peak nihilism. Audiences are tired of nihilism. We're going to do a Cinderella, but this time it's going to be dark and it's going to be modern. Audiences don't want that. They have wholeheartedly rejected it. Look at the forced success, and by forced success, I mean failure, of almost every Disney modern fairy tale. Audiences don't want it. They do not want it. And nihilism, there's just, give us some positivity, some hopefulness. Good people. Good people don't always win. And that's what this movie is about. And what do you do when you're a good person? You lead a good life, and these characters are not perfect. They're flawed and make mistakes, and you see the mistakes they make, and you see them work through it. And there you go. Like, I really enjoyed this film. So a strong recommendation for Dreamin' Wild. I think we might even get the director on the show because I really want to talk to him. Let's look at your comments and questions. Positivity in films. No way, says Mob19001. Hey, it's me in HD is a member. Love the way you described it, Chris. What happens when you go for your dream and you don't achieve? Excellent. Imperfect says characters are more effective when they have some sort of moral center. See, that's what I missed. Like, this is not a religious film, but the characters in real life, the characters that they're based on, are religious. And the movie reflects that. And it's not like they're not pushing it on anyone else. They just happen to be religious. They say prayers. They thank God. I mean, that's a lot of real people in real life. So I really hope that this film becomes a success. Geek Truth 64. At what point did modern become synonymous with nihilism? Have you looked at the news? Have you looked at what's pushed on kids? Why are children, when I say children, I mainly mean teenagers, why are they so depressed in dealing with so many mental disorders, almost mental disorders like it's a badge of honor, right? They want to like brag about their victimhood. There's no future. Why bother? The world's going to end because of climate change. You've got no hope.
It's that echo chamber of the Hollywood elite. I mean, this is the theme that occurs in all big Hollywood studios. And all they do is hang around together, talk about how bad Trump was and how bad the world is going, and they have to write about it. And it's these stories that come out of that, outside of the elite group there.
I do believe Geek Truth 64 that it is kind of synonymous with nihilism. It's dark. It's, the next Snow White movie, there's not even a romance in it. Oh, that's so 1930. The original was made in 1937. Well, there's a reason that the fable was around for hundreds of years, because it resonated with people. It resonated in people's hearts, in their minds, in our lizard brains. There's something about certain types of storytelling that just resonate. And you can make it modern in terms of the setting or in terms of maybe the characters, but the heart of it is, I said this when I saw The Force Awakens. One of the first things I said, I miss that there's no romance in it. Why isn't there romance? Where's the romance? And so many films are devoid of romance. You notice it when you see it, or you notice it when you see good people. And by the way, the other thing about this movie that I didn't notice, it's not diverse. It's not diverse in the least, because it's based on a real story. And these people grew up on a farm. I mean, I guess there's a little diversity later in the film, whatever, but it's like, it's accurate to the true story. You can look it up. You can look it up. Greasy Guido said, what did you think of the music? It's mostly like folk music, sort of like rock folk. And I liked it. It was very much from the late 70s. It felt like poppy folk rock. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the music. John Harrison says, we have been missing religious themes in film. It doesn't have to be overdone or forced. This is not overdone or forced at all. Like zero. So it's not forced, it's not overdone. It's just part of it. So there you go. So recommendation for a small indie film that is out there, Dreamin' Wild. Check it out. So there you go. Alan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. I saw the trailer for it, and I couldn't believe it was Casey Affleck and Walton Goggins. But yeah, again, we're an independent film outlet, and this falls right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. All right. We're going to talk about another movie now. We're going to pivot. Where's my thing with we're just going to have to give me a second. 32.
Yeah. Yeah, I broke a chair.
Dude, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah. Wow, I'm not. Look, in my defense, I've lost 20 pounds in the last the last month.
Oh my God. Oh no, that's getting going. All right.
Wow, that's a long one.
What? It was fun. Look, I just needed time to do a couple things to set us up. I have seen Gran Turismo. It's a film directed by Neil Blomkamp. It's a true story about a gamer who played the video game Gran Turismo on the I believe it was the PS3 at the time, and actually became a real in-life race car driver based on a true story. It is, and I'm surprised to tell you this, I really loved this film. They pushed back the release of it it was originally supposed to come out, I believe, August 11th. They have pushed the release now to the end of the month. I believe August 25th. It's now been pushed. And the reason is because they cannot get the IMAX screens. And this film needs to be seen on IMAX. Now, I am just as shocked as you are to report that this movie is phenomenal. And let me just say, the trailer is terrible. The trailer for this movie makes it look like a dumb video game movie. The video game part of the film only encompasses about the first 20 minutes of the movie. Because this is how the lead character, played by this actor Archie Madakwe, and his character's name, or the character's Archie Madak. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Archie Madakwe, and he's based on a real person named Jan Martin. I can't pronounce these names, and they're British names. Oh my God, I'm terrible. Forgive me for this. But in any case, I'm surprised how much I love this film. Why did I love it so much? One, it begins as a slow burn. You meet this kid. He's kind of a loser, a gamer, wins a contest. This is all in the trailer, and goes off to a camp, Gran Turismo camp, where he's actually taught how to drive a real race car. He knows the physics from playing the video game so well. He knows the tracks so well from playing this game for thousands of hours. And he has like every incarnation of the game that's existed. Okay. And you can actually outfit your vehicle with different parts, engines, whatnot, drive different vehicles, whatever. So a fan of the game becomes a real life race car driver, is trained and is not great at it at first. And the person who wins the contest will actually get to play in some races. They have to place at least fourth in a race to be able to move on. Of course, this is all sponsored by, I believe it's Nissan is the sponsor. So this is a real thing. Nissan was a sponsor of this group of this sort of gamers team, right? And Orlando Bloom plays the sales guy that sells this whole thing. What worked about the film? I don't want to go into too much detail. A couple things I want to point out. This is a sports movie. This is a sports movie, and what do I love about sports movies? Well, in any sports movie, once you get emotionally engaged in the characters and their story, it's a very definitive ending. Do you win or do you lose? Sometimes when you lose, you actually win. For example, the original Rocky or Bad News Bears. The characters in Rocky and the Bad News Bears, it wasn't about winning. It was about winning respect. And even though in the first Rocky, he loses the fight, he wins the respect. In the Bad News Bears, they were a terrible team, a group of misfits with a drunken Walter Matthau, which that movie, if you look back on it, is very irresponsible, incredibly irresponsible. Like, kids swear, the kids you could not make the original Bad News Bears movie today, but I love that movie in the 70s. I saw that film and just loved it. And Walter Matthau's like drinking beer and driving with a bunch of kids in his car. Like, there's just so many things I look back and it's like Disney could never make a movie like that ever again. But I love those films, right? And nobody takes this kid who played a video game, the PS3, nobody takes him seriously. Suddenly he begins to do well. And Neil Blomkamp directed the shit out of this. The intensity of the racing scenes is so incredible. He uses drone shots and you're in the cockpit and you get what it's like to just it is a physical endurance test. It gave me a whole new appreciation for race car driving, which is not a sport I've ever kept up with really in real life. I used to watch the Indianapolis 500. It's fine. I was not a big NASCAR guy, just didn't really grab me. But the way that the racing scenes are shown in this is so intense. There are payoffs with characters. The ending of, I'm not going to, of course, get into anything in the second half of the ending, but an amazing payoff. Stay through the credits. is all I want to say. I am as surprised as you. But this movie brought me back to another film, completely different type of racing movie, but one of my favorite movies that you are probably not going to remember, but I'm going to throw a recommendation out there, probably something for DVD Day. A movie called Breaking Away, which was a movie with Dennis Quaid. He's a kid, basically, in that movie. I don't know how old he was. Maybe he was a teenager when he made it.
I'm pretty sure like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. So the movie Breaking Away, these misfits, they were the cutters, and the cutters were the townies that didn't go to college. This was when Hollywood championed people from the working class. Okay. So cutters were stone cutters in this town in the Midwest, and they were looked down upon by the kids going to college. But the heroes of the movie were the blue collar working people of that town. And they were disrespected by the college kids that came from all over the country. You know, the kids who had money, who went to college, right? And the cutters were the locals, the townies. And this kid, the lead character in Breaking Away, it's really kind of like breaking away, getting out of your home, right? Like he rides a bicycle. He wants to race with the Italians, and he kind of pretends to have an Italian accent. And he has a cat named Fellini. Anyways, the film leads to a big bicycle race between the college kids, and they let, for the first time, they let the town, people from the town, have a team called the Cutters. Everyone from the local town, cops, you know, the blue collar working people who cut stone are like rooting for the Cutters. And the third act of it with the bicycle race is just fantastic. I felt the same way watching the third act of Gran Turismo that I felt watching Breaking Away. And I don't know that I've seen a movie that made me feel that way between that time. I know it's surprising for me to say all this, but this movie as a sports movie knocked it out of the park. And it's probably one of the best racing films I've ever seen. I'm trying to compare it, you know, to previous films of this type. It just nailed it because of the director's approach. Neil Blomkamp just got you in, not only in there, got you in the head of the lead character, Jan, who you see sort of his thought process because he's played the video game so much and he has driven these tracks for thousands of hours. He knows the track in the video game. I don't want to give too much away, but they're doing early screenings of it. I think it might even be playing this weekend. It does open officially on August 25th. Alan, I hope that you'll go see the film.
Well, I'm definitely going to see it. Let me ask you this, though. The reason I hate this trailer is
the trailer's terrible.
But it gives us Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of feeling. You know, this fantastical, hey, I played a video game. I'm the greatest at the video game. And now I'm going to get behind the wheel of a real, you know, race car. And it just questions the authenticity of this story. And I kind of want to know, you know, I mean, it sounds like it does a real good job to make it feel like that this could have, that this really happened, and that there's an authenticity that we're just not getting across in the trailer.
Well, I'll just say this. None of it is in the trailer. The trailer is stupid. The trailer is basically focuses on the first 20 minutes of the movie, which is Orlando Bloom's characters recruiting these gamers. They have this competition, then they go to a camp. Like, that's in the movie, but that's not what the movie is. That's just the starting point of the film. And I don't want to go into it because I don't want to. Yeah, Patrick T, Last Starfighter vibes. Yeah, for sure. But I'm just, I'm surprised how much I enjoyed the film. And by the end, you get like I saw it it was a packed audience. I was surprised. I look back like, oh wow, it's a crowded audience. Like, where people are just getting like super excited, where they're clapping and getting pumped. I'm looking forward to seeing it again with an audience in IMAX. Unfortunately, I did not get to see it in IMAX. I'm not complaining about the sound and picture and all that. It was very good, but this movie needs to be seen in IMAX. There's a reason that Sony pushed the release date until later so people can get Oppenheimer out of their system. But it's also, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, but I believe it really earned it. And the movie goes deep. It feels like an indie movie. That's why I'm comparing it to a movie that I'm not sure how many people in the chat have actually seen Breaking Away. It's an old movie. It is in color, I will say. But look it up. Look up Breaking Away. Do yourself a favor. Watch that film. It's in the 70s. Hollywood movies felt like independent films. And then what happens is Hollywood got, around 1982, Hollywood sort of veered into spectacle. A lot of that having to do with the success of movies like Jaws and Star Wars. So Hollywood went spectacle, and then indie films just kept making the types of movies that were made in the 70s. In the 70s, those movies, you could go through them, they were like low budget indie movies because that's what Hollywood was willing to finance. Okay. So I'm just like, I DM'd a couple people that I follow who are YouTubers on Twitter, like Az and Ryan Kinnell and some others. And I'm like, hey, I just saw Gran Turismo. I'm as shocked as you are that I'm telling you this. It's actually really good. I don't want to say too much more. I haven't gotten into it, but that trailer is awful. I think it's awful. And Neil Blomkamp,
I would not see this movie if it were just for the trailer.
The trailer did not, because it just looked like this is a video game movie. It is not a video game movie. The video game is the starting point into a true story. And so there you go.
So is this an awards film?
It's not an awards film.
Okay.
It will win 0 awards. But one thing I will say, actually, you know what? I'm going to save it for when we actually review. I don't want to say there's just the movie in the third act really pays off. And even the movie meetup group that I go with in Burbank every week, they were like, wait, what? What? You're kidding. What? Let's go through your chat comments and questions. We have some special guests joining us. Super chat from David Nelson for $4.99. Thoughts on the Bastard cartoon series on Netflix? Hail the 199. Alan, what did you think of the Bastard cartoon series?
I did not see the Bastard cartoon series.
Neither did I. I'm really sorry, David. Well, you know what? I will check it out based on that. Real quick comments here. How many RRRs do you give it? Says Ninja Vanish. Totally can't be compared to RRR. Cannot be compared. Is it better than Ford versus Ferrari? Variety. Is it better than Ford versus Ferrari? Says Matthew Hammond. Different. But it has a similar thing. I actually think the racing in it might be better in terms of the way the racing is. The way that like Neil Blomkamp gets you in the heads of the drivers and then like uses drones, the real footage, it's insane. I don't know how much this movie cost. Obviously, there must have been some digital enhancement. So there you go. Hey, it's me in HD. So from your endorsement, Chris, it sounds like Neil is back on track, so to speak, to what people thought he would be as a director. Happy to hear. Absolutely. Go see it. Wow. Breaking Away was awesome back then, says Mob19001. Ron Enriquez. The trailer is actually what got me to see the movie, Chris. That and Neil Blomkamp directing. Saw it. So, Ron, you saw it as Regal's Monday mystery movie last week, and I loved it. See?
I almost went to that one.
Okay. Everyone I know who's seen the movie loves the movie, but then everyone you tell that you love the movie is like, wait, you love the movie Gran Turismo? And yeah, I loved it. It's really good. By the way, nothing about it woke. Nothing about it is woke. SM Lewis for 10 is a member. 69% sure Chris is Lincoln Loud. I don't even know who that is. Alan, can you look up Lincoln Loud? MK Solid 82 for $4.99. Chris, I was watching Last of the Mohicans, and I don't know if we will ever reach that type of peak cinema ever again. Just the soundtrack alone. Yeah, there's a lot of older films that I watch just because I wonder why doesn't Hollywood make movies like that? They just don't.
By the way, the chat is blowing up about Breaking Away. That's a movie I've seen at least 50 times. I
bought it recently on digital.
Yeah. I started cycling because of that movie.
Yeah, I love that film. Yeah. But what I'm saying is the movie gave me that same feeling of Breaking Away. An underdog. You see, like on the racetrack, they're like, you're the gamer? Like, F you. Like, he has these rival race car drivers. I don't want to go into detail about it. I want to wait until you have seen it, Alan. I don't know if we'll get invited to the screen.
When you talk the underdog story, what I liked was it was Dennis Christopher's character who was the great cyclist, and his three buddies couldn't ride, and so they just sat back on the track while they let Dennis Christopher's character do the race until they had to go into action themselves.
Yeah, I don't want to but yeah, if you have not seen Breaking Away, if you've never seen it, see it. If you've seen it, see it again. And the movie, what I'm saying is I haven't felt this way. Like, it's hopeful, it's positive, it's go for your dream, and maybe you achieve a version of your dream maybe you didn't expect. But because I don't want to say anything, but I will say that it's just a positive, hopeful movie. Some more. From Rumble, Lord Shack says Chris' new self-made indie film, The Keg. If you bring a keg to the MEG, you'll have a good time. Imperfect says it's interesting because Gran Turismo has actually done this in real life. They have yearly competitions, and the winner gets to drive a real car on a track. See the film. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Imperfect. Burosaurus Rex, not that unreasonable, given that actual pilots learn and train with flight sims, which are elaborate video games, essentially, not as if it's someone playing Madden and joining the NFL. I think that's different because you need physical prowess, but you do also need physical prowess when it comes to, racing. I didn't realize how physical it was. And I don't think that the gamers realized how physical it is being in there, being in control, like your endurance, 3 hours in a hot car, remaining just laser focused. So thank you, Burosaurus Rex. Brock Samsonite says, also, Chris, have you not commented yet on how movie theaters just rejected the Marvels by refusing to give them any IMAX screens because they'd rather run Dune Part 2 for 5 to 6 straight weeks, lol. Yeah, I heard that. So that's IMAX. I love IMAX. I have been to their headquarters in Playa del Vista for a couple of screenings. Love that company. I'm so glad that 3D is not as popular as it used to be. I'd rather see a movie in IMAX than 3D. I don't need 3D. For a type of movie like the Meg Part 2 would be fun to see in 40X. I know 40X is ridiculous. Fine. But certain movies it works because, the Meg 2, The Trench is basically more of a ride than it is a movie. Lincoln Loud does look like a cartoon, Chris Gore, says One Punch Man Tolkien fan. Well, thank you for that. But we're going to pivot because we have a special guest joining us. Before we pivot, I want to throw out a plug for an indie film that we just reviewed on Film Threat. We just reviewed it, got a very good review. It opens this weekend in theaters. It's premiering at the Lumiere Music Hall in Beverly Hills, California today, August 4th, and it's coming to select theaters. You can rent or buy this film. Bobcat Moretti, starring Vivica A. Fox. The lead actor in this movie, Tim Robuto, I was corresponding with the filmmakers. Okay, this guy during the course of the movie lost 156 pounds.
Oh yeah, You see it too.
Did you see the film?
Yeah, I reviewed it actually.
Review it. Well, we should
between
review
the
it on the
first and
show.
the second act, he drops that 100 pounds.
It's insane. So I just wanted to mention, that it's out and available. So, or it's out to see. So just Google it. Check out the review on the Film Threat website. It got a positive review from you, Alan. And I like sports
I'll just say
movies.
it's a sports movie. It's a sports
Yes.
drama, like you were just talking. It's inspirational. Just about a fat schlub who gets into boxing and kind of finds focus and direction in his life because of boxing.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw out, you're looking for indie film recommendations, okay? You want to, avoid the sort of mainstream Hollywood stuff that's being foisted upon us. And, look, not to say that there aren't bad indie movies. We tend to not focus on those. We focus on movies in wide release, and then we focus on the indie movies that sort of the cream rises to the top, right? So there you go. Just a recommendation out there. I like to throw out little recommendations. This little video that we did just now could be a short on the channel. Could be a short. That's a little note for Glenn Brown, our intrepid producer who knocked it out of the park with the Critics' Court. Love that he did that. So there you go.
And now he's recuperating.
What's that?
And now he's recuperating.
Dude,
we pushed him hard during Critics' Court.
We did. What am I doing here? I'm finding. A couple quick things. Very shortly, the producer of Till Death Do Us Part, Jeffrey Reddick, is going to be joining us on the show. But I want to let people know before he joins that I will be at the AMC Universal City Walk tonight. I will be there at the 8:45 p.m. show of this film. I will be attending the movie, and I will be moderating the Q&A after, probably around 10:30 or so. So there are seats still available. If you are local and you're available to go to the AMC Universal City Walk, Till Death Do Us Part is playing there, and I'll be interviewing the director and I believe one of the actors of the film. So there you go. But the producer of Till Death Do Us Part, here he is, Jeffrey Reddick. Hey, thanks for joining us on the show, Jeffrey.
Of course. Sorry, I keep forgetting to put this on Google Chrome, and I keep trying to get on Safari when I log on to your show. So
you're all good. You're all good. It's good to see you.
You
too. See you again. Yeah.
You too. How are you?
Doing great. First of all, tell us about this movie. It is. I really just have one big question for you, which is about the stunts and the action work, because it's insane, and how your lead actress did all of that in a wedding dress. But tell us about the story for the film and how you got involved as producer.
Yeah, the story is basically, without giving too much away, it's about a wedding gone wrong. It starts off as a little bit of a rom-com. With this bride and groom getting ready to celebrate like the happiest day of their life, and the bride notices like a young woman and her child in the audience, and something's off, and she decided that she can't go through the wedding. So she takes off, leaves the groom and his groomsmen behind. And then you find out that there are some people that didn't want them to get married in the first place. And now that she's taken off, she's she's really pissed off some wrong people. So these groomsmen kind of track her down, and originally they're supposed to kind of keep her contained until the groom gets there, because he's got to work the situation out to try to kind of save them for her running off. And things go awry in very crazy, fun ways. So it's a really fun movie. It's got action, it's got humor, and it's got Timothy Woodard's kind of quirky sensibility. This was a really fun story for him, and it was a story he wanted to tell. Just kind of about love and relationships, and there's another plot that we follow that really bolsters what's going on in the story, that follows another, couple that's been married for decades, and they kind of meet them. And so there's a lot of like fun relationship kind of stuff going on. And then there's the action and the blood and the kills.
Well, one of the things I didn't do before watching the film was see the trailer, which I'm glad I didn't. But I do recommend checking out the trailer for the film. But this movie could almost be a companion piece to Kill Bill in a way. It's just to warn people. I mean, it's hyper violent in ways. And I have to ask, how did you prepare for your lead actress? I'm looking and I'm going like, is she doing all that? Because I couldn't tell at times. I know, I'm sure there were stunt people involved, but the acrobatics, the blood, prepare yourself. Just tell me about that.
That was all Natalie. I think there were maybe 2 times when we had a stunt person in there, but a lot, so I don't want to, not acknowledge that there was a stunt person involved. But Natalie, she's a trained ballerina. She's also one of the producers on the film as well. And, it was one of those situations when I was on set watching some of those fight scenes, the producer me just kept going up to her, are you sure you're okay? She's like, I'm fine. So she did it in that wedding dress. It was so funny because we didn't have a bunch of them. This is, I want to also mention that, this was an indie film being put out independently. And so our whole team is behind the unions and the workers right now trying to get fair pay. So that being said, as an indie film, they only had a couple of dresses. And so they would have to paint the dress after fights because there would be blood on them. So, kind of the joke was like at the end of the shoot, when she peeled the dress off of her, you could like just stand it up because it was so stiff from being painted over and over again. So she was a real trooper. Everybody, when you're working in indie film, you don't have a lot of the luxuries you have on big budget films. And so everybody just kind of came in and committed, 110%. It was a very challenging shoot for everybody involved, but I mean that in the most positive way, how people really stepped up to the plate to kind of give this like a much bigger feel. And, also just to follow Tim's vision. Like we are marketing this as a kind of straight up, like kick-ass, like blood and guts film, not blood and guts, but blood and action and murder from the beginning. And that's definitely a part of it. But there was the screenwriters wrote a script that was not just like a Kill Bill movie. I mean, I love Kill Bill, but
right.
It's not as simple like I'm going to get revenge on these guys and I'm going to just start massacring them from the beginning. So, Tim has a very quirky sense of humor. We had a great cast that he really let explore stuff that they wanted to explore as far as the humor goes. And so I think it just all comes together in this really entertaining, fun ride of a film.
We've got hundreds of people watching live. Let's go to some comments from our chat right here. Imperfect says, I'm so sold on this film. Hey, it's me, and HD says, wait, Jason Patrick, the solar baby himself?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Jason was great. Yeah. Jason. Yeah. Obviously growing up on Jason Patrick in so many movies that I loved, having him a part of this film, and he's got a good role. He's got a meaty role. It's not one of those get somebody with a name to pop up for 5 minutes and head out the door. So, he was so it was great to work with him.
And then Portland 182 says, why was Samurai Rabbit removed from the source material? Love Final Destination.
Nice way to ask a question with a compliment. Thank you, Portland 182. The Usagi Chronicles that we did had to be a spinoff of the comic book. Stan Lee was involved, and Stan Lee. I'm just blanking on his name because I just embarrassed myself by calling him
Oh
Stan.
no, it's all good.
But Stan, the creator of the Usagi Yojimbo manga, was very involved in the production and signed off on it. But they're doing an adaptation of the source material already. So we did this as kind of a spin-off with some of the characters that you know and love, but it had to be separate from the source material because there's actually a source material based project in the works.
Cool. And then more questions here. Razorburn Jeffrey, was this movie just as fun as making the Final Destination films?
Oh, you know, I mean, that's how dare you? No, I have to say that, you know, because I wrote the first movie and the story for the second movie and executive produced the second one, and especially Final Destination, like those were so fun because of how long I knew it took to develop it and get it to the screen. And so once I started seeing the train rolling, and you know, we got James Wan and Glenn Morgan on board, had Craig Perry and Warren Zide, who were some great producers working on it. And I worked at New Line in New York, so I got to see all the casting stuff and give notes on all the changes that were happening. And I went to set and I actually shot a cameo. So I don't think that was my first film. Like, I don't think anything's going to top that as far as, you know, because as a horror geek, like your first film getting made by a studio that you love, there's nothing that's can kind of top that. I don't think. I think I was chasing that dragon for many years, and I realized, you know, the first one is, you know, it's sometimes the best. I mean, obviously in certain life situations, your first time is not the best. But I did have a lot of fun on this one. It was a smaller, you know, it's a smaller cast and crew. It's more intimate. I worked with Tim on a couple of genre projects. I kind of pulled him into the horror genre. So working with him is always fun and special, and we will continue to work together. So the experience of working with him, like all the Final Destinations, have had a different, you know, we've had James Wong and Glenn Morgan for 1 and 3, Eric Bress, J. Mackie Gruber, 2 and 5, or 2 and 4. So, and we have a great team on the new one, which will, you know, start once the AMPTP kind of gets back to the table and negotiates a fair deal for everybody. So it's fun to watch that one grow. But I always have fun working on Tim's movies. And this one was definitely a blast because of all the stunt people. And it's the weirdest things because Jason Patrick was amazing. But, you know, I'm a huge fan of Orlando Jones, and I'd never met him before. And I was like, holy shit, Orlando Jones is on film. And, you know, the last one I did with Timothy, you know, he brought Lynn Shay and Tobin Bell together. And just seeing them on screen was magic. And then the first film we did had Lynn Shay, which was the first time I'd worked with her. I've known her for a long, long time and have been a fan. But, you know, we had Tony Todd in that, and we had Michael Welch, who was in the Day of the Dead remake that I did. So that was a family reunion. So working on his films, they're always amazing in a new, special kind of way, because there's always meeting new people and working with some people continually. And yeah, it's a family working with him.
I love Tony Todd. I met him actually on the set of the Night of the Living Dead remake directed by Tom Savini. I was a zombie in that movie.
Oh, that's awesome. That was a great remake. I love that remake.
I love what Tom Savini, there's a documentary where he talks about what the original ending was supposed to be. And they just didn't give him enough money to do it. And it kind of sucks. But it was the best 2 weeks of camp ever because I was a featured zombie. And it was awesome. Fun. More comments here. Brock Samsonite says, Jeffrey, are you responsible for that scene in Final Destination 2 with the semi-truck that will forever haunt my nightmares?
I proudly, yes. I like to think that I've saved lives. That's my way of not feeling guilty after all these years. But it's funny because I'm from Kentucky, and you know, we had this story figured out for the sequel, but we didn't have the opening. And Craig and I were going back and forth on stuff. And I went home to visit my family in Kentucky, and I got behind a log truck and I pulled into the next lane, and then I pulled off the highway, and I called Craig up like frantically out of breath, going, I think I've got, you know, what about a log truck on a freeway? And he's like, slow down, dude. I can't understand you. He didn't say dude. He doesn't talk like that. He was just like, slow down. And so, yes, I told him about the log truck, and he's like, that's our opening. And then I have to give so much credit to David Ellis, who directed that, because he's no longer with us, but he had a stunt background. And so he just knew how to make that scene way better than anything we could have imagined. Like, so yes, I love it. The scene when the logs hit the pavement and start their mayhem. And I think that's probably one of my top 5 favorite openings in horror films.
Same.
There are obviously there are other iconic ones that I dare not, I would not say are better, absolutely, but I would say it's in my top 5 for sure.
And one last question before we wrap up is Greasy Guido asks, this sounds like a rom-com, horror, thriller, mystery. I'm sold. Do I need to stay after the credits?
There are no post-credit scenes. No, there aren't any. But yes, it is all the things that you said in there, which sounds like a strange brew of a movie. But again, like, I think, if you've seen any of Timothy's movies, like, he's got his own sensibility and style on the way that he likes to do things. So it's not like, again, it's not like a Kill Bill straight action movie. It's got comedy, it's got romance, and it's just got some wild stuff in it. It's got some wild, crazy stuff in it.
Well, Jeffrey.
By the way, people are commenting about your mini-me figure in the background.
Oh,
right.
It's creepy and amazing.
That's an original mini-me from New Line, and he still works. If I squeeze him, he squeals. So
that's great. Well, Jeffrey, thanks for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. Congratulations. Always great to talk to you. So Death Do Us Part in theaters. Check it out. And tonight at the AMC Universal City Walk, the 8:45 show, there'll be a post-screening Q&A with the director and Natalie are going to be there.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah. And Timothy and I will be at the Lumiere Theater tomorrow night for a Q&A as well. So in Los Angeles. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy the film, and thanks for having me on the show. You've got my number, so anytime. Y'all have a great weekend. Okay.
All right. Take care, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Later. Bye. What a great guy. It's the second time we've interviewed him.
That's a good movie too.
Let's we're gonna pivot for a second because we have another special guest that's gonna be joining us. Wait, I gotta figure somehow I'm gonna figure out the tech. I'm gonna figure this out. Here we go. What are we doing? Where are we? Here we are. Just a minute. Jackie the Joke Man Martling. Here he is. Oh, Jackie, it is a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. I saw your documentary, Joke Man. It is now available on video on demand. Came out, I think it's out now, right?
Yeah, it's on iTunes and Amazon and all the platforms. And after a couple days, it was already the #4 documentary on iTunes. So we are just thrilled. And thank you so much for having me on, obviously.
Well, this is now the second time we've met. I met you. You will not remember, but I'm going to dig out the photo at some point. I met you. It was at a Slam Dance Film Festival party in Park City, Utah. And you were there just hanging out. And you were
Sundance.
Awesome. Sundance.
Your name sounded familiar when I saw it, when Maggie gave it to me. I remember Slam Dance. There's nothing more fun than Sundance and those Slam Dance. And I used to go to Sundance and to Cannes with Tom Bernard, the president of Sony Pictures Classics. And it was like being at Disney World with Walt Disney, and it was just so exciting. And we were probably at some party for some wacky movie, right?
Yes, we were at a party, and you were just you were just so approachable. People are coming up to you. You're throwing out jokes. You're hanging out. You taking pic. This is I think before the selfie thing even existed. I'm like, can I get a picture with you? And I had like this digital elf. It wasn't even phones couldn't take good pictures back then. And I had this elf. Does anyone remember that? Anyways, but Jackie, this documentary is your entire career. It had to be in the makings, just from the archival footage. This documentary had to be in production for years.
Not really, because a lot of that stuff existed already. Like a lot of stuff that's on there was not collected at the time with anything in mind. It's just stuff I had around because I have so many videotapes, audio tapes. You would not believe the amount of stuff I have. And then my partner from Sirius 101, we had a show on Howard 101 on Sirius called Jackie's Joke Hunt. And my fellow friar, Ian Carr, we had met years before. And when we met at the Friars Club, he was a huge Howard Stern fan. And 5 minutes after we were talking, he goes, "You are nothing like the guy on that show. You are completely misrepresented." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't care. You know, the whole thing, you're cheap, you're angry, blah, blah, blah. It works fine on the radio. And I got no problem with that. You know, I mean, they're buttons. You know, I'm not cheap, but if you call somebody cheap and they get angry, it works. You know, if you tell somebody they're angry and they say, 'No, I'm not,' right away, they're angry. So it works, you know. And I knew it was great radio, and I was making Howard funny and making some money. So it was great. And then after the show, we did it for 8 years. And then Ian was like, "You know, we really should do a documentary," because he said, "There's a lot more to you than just the Stern show. And, you know, people just know you from the show and also mainly from you getting fired or leaving the show. Let's do a documentary." And like, you know, what's more flattering than that, Chris? Well, you know, what am I going to say? Of course, I was absolutely thrilled. And it was so much fun making it. It takes forever. You know, from the beginning, Willie Nelson was all in about being in it. It still took a year to connect. I'm sure you're well aware how tough it is to connect with people. And finally, we caught up with him at the House of Blues in New Orleans. But the whole thing was such a trip. And Ian did such a great job. And Ronnie Thomas, the editor, I just love the way it flows. People say I sit down to watch it, and before you even get comfortable, the thing is over, which is a pretty nice compliment, you know.
Well, I gotta say, I know your work from years. I was addicted. A fan. I got Sirius XM the day that, you know, they brought it out. I listened to Howard all the way back to the early 90s in Los Angeles. I used to hate those 20-minute break commercials, but some of the best bits on the show you are responsible for, because you were this catalyst, this irritant that you knew the buttons to push to get people, which made some of the best bits on the show. So, and I'm so glad that the documentary acknowledges that, you know, especially when it comes to like irritating Gary. I love it.
You know, I was the sand in the gears. And after I left that show, somebody said that Howard said at some point, "Should we get Jackie back?" And Robin said, "Oh, if you bring him back, I'm going to leave." Because I'm telling you, Chris, the day I left that show, the vacation began for Gary and Robin and Fred, because I was the one that was always breaking their balls, and not in a mean way, just always in fun. But it kept it sparky and a goof, and it was funny all the time. And all of a sudden I'm out of there and there's nobody starting it. God, it was so easy. Like, we'd be sitting there and Gary would come in to talk to Howard and he'd try and do some business. And as he was walking out of the studio, I'd go, "Jesus, look at his ass." And bow, we're off to the races for 15 minutes. You know, that's all it took. And that's all I had to do was light the match, you know, and Howard just ran the fire, you know. But it was great fun. And I'm so glad that you're a fan and that you knew what was happening. You know, some people knew and some people didn't know, but I just like it being out there. I really do, you know.
Well, it was appointment listening. I mean, we used to listen back in the 90s when I was working for, oddly enough, Larry Flint Publications, and I was doing Film Threat, the print magazine there. We put Howard Stern on the cover of an issue of Film Threat, Fart Man. We put Fart Man as one of the greatest, and I wrote a book later called The 50 Greatest Movies Never Made, and Fart Man as a chapter.
Really?
Yes, it's a chapter in that book. But like, we were listening to it in the offices. It was just like, we were all listening to Stern, and I sent him copies of, and he did a mention of my movie because he used to play the red tapes. And I made a movie based on the red tapes, and Howard mentioned it. I just you guys, I feel like that decades long relationship, and like also coming from Detroit, Howard back in the day, like I wonder why Howard's never done a documentary about his life and whatnot. Like I don't know why that's never happened, but
well, theoretically they did. Like one thing, you have certain regrets in life, and I put out my autobiography, The Joke Man Bow to Stern, and I wrote enough for 2 books. And some of the chapters that didn't make it into the book, I was the one doing the choosing. I still can't believe it, because there was a whole chapter about private parts called Very Private Parts, talking about the making of the movie and the whole story of that. And that itself is a whole thing. But that's his story. But in that story, it ends with him becoming #1 in New York at NBC. There's never any mention of K-Rock. They've never got near the fact that I was writing jokes or contributing to it. Like I was like an afterthought to the film. And I don't know if he'd ever make the movie that tells the whole tale. I don't think he's too excited about it. But they were going to make the movie without me and Fred in it. It's a whole lot. You got to read this. I will send you this chapter. I got to get your email address and send you this chapter, because as a film guy, you'll be knocked out. But I would love to see that fart man thing.
I'll send it to you. I have a PDF of it. I'll send it to you. You can read it, digital copy. But we have hundreds of people. Let me ask
you a question. You worked at Hustler.
Yes.
Did you know Erica McLean?
Erica, was she a talent booker? Her
husband chose all the pictures and all this. He was like a main editor at Hustler.
Wow. I'm not sure the name
Erica
doesn't ring a bell.
She's this beautiful woman, and he passed away. And it's too long a story. I just thought you might go, "Oh, Erica, yeah, I had lunch with her." Yeah. So I didn't mean to go.
Well, I wrote humor for Hustler magazine and then tricked Larry Flint into buying Film Threat. At the time, this is the 90s. I'm working on my own documentary about Film Threat in the 90s, but that's been in the works for a decade. But we have a lot of people with comments and questions. And I want to point out that my partner, Alan Ing, on the show is also a huge fan. That's how we became friends, is Absolutely. Like, we were both like, "You're a Howard fan?" It's sort of like when you discover someone's a Howard fan, they're not full of shit. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like two guys finding out that they both like hockey, or they both like the New York Jets or something like that. Only it's deeper than that, because it's a whole personality to get the Howard Stern show. I mean, very early on, so many people didn't get it. Joan Rivers walked in on the show. She got it from the word go. David Brenner got it from the word go. Arnold Schwarzenegger got it from the word go. What's the guy from Frasier? Jesus Christ. Casey, you know who I'm talking about. Certain people just really caught on. Leslie West from Mountain. But there were other people that just didn't get it. Like, it's off color, or it's stupid, or I don't get it, But the people that got it really got it. And as time went on, it expanded the amount of people. All of a sudden, the people at the water cooler, instead of it being you two guys, it was you two guys and 4 more guys and 3 more girls, And you watched the version. If you were watching it, listen, in the 90s, you just watched it explode, especially in Los Angeles. Like, my God.
Not just that. There was the E Show, which was, I don't know if you know this guy's name, John Ryber. And I worked with
John Ryber.
I worked with John Ryber at G4 TV. He was like one of the senior executives. He's in a documentary I made called Attack of the Doc. But John I knew, and he told me the whole story of how the pilot got made. That E Show was insane. And I just like how it would the way they would cut it into this half-hour sort of to tell a story was so good. The E Show in the 90s was insanely good.
I really should write a book about, what, to me that was the film My Favorite Year.
Yeah,
that's I lived the life of My Favorite Year. And I have a podcast called Stand Up Memories. And we've done like 4 seasons, and there's at least 3 or 4 people that watch it, you know. But the other day we had Tommy Chong on, and Tommy's 85. I thought he's like 77 or he's 85. And I said, I know you've done so much stuff, but by any chance, do you remember coming on the Howard Stern Channel 9 show? And before I finished the sentence, he said, are you kidding, man? Because it was actually Cheech and Chong, and it was the Christmas show. And Howard was the Virgin Mary on a camel, only instead of a camel, it was a donkey. And I think Tommy and Cheech were both Joseph. It was so outrageous. And then the manger scene was our producer. He was the baby Jesus with his glasses on, only they had him covered up, and he had the body of a doll's body with his head, and the animals in the manger were a sheep, a donkey, and an Italian organ grinder with a monkey. It was so people were so outraged. It was just wonderful. And he was like, of course I remember that, man. It was nothing more outrageous, you know. So that's indicative of how crazy that show was. Oh, it was and Reiber was like one of the executive producers.
Yes,
right?
no, he told me about the making of the behind the scenes, how they delivered the pilot to him by some guy on a bicycle, just brought over the tape and you know, got it all sold at E and set up, and he's been also something of a mentor to me, so I really appreciate John Reiber. He knows so much about TV.
We touched base, I think a year, you know, at some point. Was it a year ago? Was it 5 years ago? But we actually touched base, and it was like, remember those days? Holy mackerel! How are we still alive? What are those kind of things, you know?
He's great, but back in the 90s, like I remember buying, of course, the Howard Stern books, but also Butt Bongo Fiesta, the video, and then when he did, and I wish I had a copy of it. I'll bet there's videos on YouTube when he did, like, you could buy the pay-per-view special that the New Year's Rotten Eve was. It's like he was such a counterculture figure, and you being a part of that. I mean, everyone on the show was counterculture, and it's weird to see sort of the evolution of. I mean, I believe you stayed true to being Jackie. You're no different, I believe, now than you were back then. I think Howard, though, people have accused him of being a little woke. I don't know. Like, do you have any thoughts on that? What do you think?
I think he was, you know, I don't bad talk, but I think he was always the guy with his nose up against the window pane that wanted to be in the room. And I think he finally got in the room, and I think that's what he wanted. Whatever some people consider the room. I've always been me because and I'm sure all my acting sequences that anybody can see, I'm not a good enough actor to be anybody but myself. And it's just easier. You know, I mean, I've just always told jokes, and I've always laughed at them, and I've always enjoyed myself, and I always enjoyed telling stories. So I've never really strayed from that. I got very lucky. I bumped into Howard Stern and made a lot of money. But, you know, there were times I was happy and times I was miserable my entire life. You know, in college, you're on top of the world, then you're in the pits. And then you're a musician and you're on top of the world, you're in the pits. And then you're a comic. The up and down, you just try and roll with it. You know, I thought, hey, if I ever make some money, I'll be on top of the world. All of a sudden, I made more money on the Stern Show than I ever believed I'd ever make. That doesn't do anything. All of a sudden, money's not a problem. And you have to deal with all the other problems. You know, it's just how you accept them and deal with them. And sometimes you do better than others. You know, that's just how it was. But it was those Channel 9 days and the E! Show was so much fun. It was just so stupid. You know, they followed us everywhere. I used to almost get in fist fights with Mike Gange. I'm like, get out of here with that camera. You know, some girl would come to say hello to me or something like that. And I knew if he got 2 seconds of me saying hello to a girl, oh, look at Jackie's having an affair. You know what I mean? You learn to be smart about it, you know. Right. And you also learn how to feed stuff to Howard that you don't want him to know. You know, you learn to be Brer Rabbit. You know, don't throw me in the Briar Patch, you know. I know
we've
that's
got
way
some-
too old a reference for you guys. But
Oh,
I
I've
don't
got the
care.
Briar Patch. I got it.
We're old
All right.
enough to know that one.
Yeah, we got it. We've got hundreds of people watching now. We have comments and questions from our chat. Do you have time to take some questions?
I'm going nowhere. I didn't know whether this, you know, it said 1:45. I'm thinking, what are they going to have me on for 5 minutes and get rid of me? I got nothing to do except go back and take another long swim. I wake up in the morning and swim in Long Island Sound, and I live the life of Riley here. And I've been doing so much promotion for this movie, and I just love it. And the reaction has been over the top. And most of the interviewers, to my total shock, have seen the documentary. So many times you talk to people and say, oh, yeah, what a great movie. I can't wait to watch it. Or what a great CD. Someday I'll listen to it, you know. But everybody seems to have watched it and they like it. And people are like, oh, I watched it over and over. So, yeah, you know, Chris, I've never learned to shut up. The answer to your question was yes.
All right, some comments here. How's your father? Says Billy West goofing on the Jackie puppet was gold. Other comments here. Andrew S. Robin versus Jackie was great. I loved when you guys fought. I thought it was awesome.
You know, it was such a weird relationship, but not really if you look at it for what it was. You know, once in a while, me and Robin would be fooling around and I'd grab her and throw her down on the couch and jump on top and start, you know, humping her thigh or something like that. And Howard was always like, man, you are so in love with her. You're so in love with her. And I didn't know how to tell him, but she was like the fat girl that you made friends with in high school or college that you just banged around with and had fun with and just had a goof with. And I from the very beginning, after we went to mornings, after X amount of time, one time I said, Howard, on the air, I said, I got to tell you this. I had an incredibly graphic sex dream about Robin last night, and I can't believe how real it was. And I just thought it'd be funny to tell you that. I think it's great. And she's like, oh, you're such an idiot. But I swear to you, a couple weeks later, Robin goes, Howard, I have to tell you something. Last night, I had a graphic sex dream about Jackie. Now, who the hell volunteers that? I thought, you know, she's all about what's better for the show. But she could be such a, you know, because she could sandbag a bit because with that obnoxious laugh, you know, my laugh was always different. Her laugh was the same no matter what happened. She but if that wasn't there was a hole. And she would sandbag sometimes when I did these great stern acts, like Carson's Carnax, or she would be rude, you know. And one time, you know, I mean, I got so pissed off. And then we went to commercial and she said, and she came out and came into the studio and she said, and I called her, I don't know what you're allowed to say on your program, but I called her very loudly a C word. And I said, you are a fucking cunt. And she's like, I said, no, I'm not kidding this time. You are, because I worked so hard on that. Of course, 10 minutes later, we're friends again. But, you know, we get so mad. But Howard always thought I was in love with her. And it was you know, as unsexual as anything could possibly be. But, you know, I couldn't say to him, of course it's not sexual. Look at her. I couldn't say that, you know, that's mean, but I fucking don't care.
And more questions. Zavin says, is that a Rodney Dangerfield statue?
That statue, somebody gave me that 10 years ago. And it's not a statue. It's the doll. You push the button and Rodney tells 2, 3, or 4 jokes, right? And I had this whole thing on the Stern Show where I got in trouble and I owed Rodney money. And the premise was the reason I wound up with this whole thing with him was he would use jokes that I sent him without paying me, which I didn't care about because there was nothing subversive about him. He just was not a bookkeeper. he was doing coke and he was smoking pot and getting drunk back in those days. And we had so much fun. And when he came on the show, I wasn't about to say, Rodney, you know what you're talking about. You were so coked up in those days, blah, blah, blah. So there's so many jokes on that doll. And once in a while, I push the button. And one day I pushed the button and I heard a joke that I had sent to him that he hadn't bought. And I'm like, there's the proof in the pudding, because he must have pulled the joke out. He must have pulled the joke out to use just after he did Back to School. Because the joke was, I got no respect. In high school, I shared lockers with a mop, which is just so innocent and stupid, but it was a Rodney joke. I'm like, you son of a bitch, there's proof right there, you know. But he was great. And that thing, it's a prized possession. I put new batteries in it all the time, and people don't even want to talk to me to come over and hit the button, you know.
More questions here. Thoughts on fitness with Nigel says, Chris, this is your best stream. Jackie is amazing. And Greasy Guido asks, Jackie, did you get into comedy to impress chicks?
No. I started playing guitar to impress chicks. And then I was such a lousy musician that it morphed into comedy, because the last thing I was going to do was get a job. I play guitar. You know, I went to this guy that I've known since kindergarten. He's still my best friend, Chris Bates. And I said, do you play the guitar? We're in like 7th grade. He goes, yeah. He says, well, you know, I went to Sunday school, and there was this pretty girl in my Sunday school class. And she said, gee, Ricky Nelson is so cool. He plays the guitar. He says, so I went out and got a guitar and started taking lessons. And I went back to Sunday school. I never saw the girl again. She disappeared. He said, but let me teach you a couple chords. We could have a band. I said, fine. He taught me a couple chords. And by 9th grade, we had a band, and we were playing gigs before there was this new band called the Beatles. And a couple of years after we're playing, at some point we're playing instrumentals. I said, we got to start singing. And he said, but we can't sing. I said, it doesn't matter. We got to sing anyway. We played all through high school. I played all through college. I stayed an extra couple of years in college because I was enjoying getting drunk and playing rock and roll, and came home to Long Island. And me and that same guy played in a 2-man band for 10 years. And that's when we recorded the Pot song and all the songs that Howard always made fun of. And then this is the greatest story. I don't know if this is in the documentary, but we had a 3-piece band, and
No.
We lost him.
No, there we go. He's back.
Oh, wait, here we go. Okay, sorry. There we go. Okay, cool.
So we're in a 3-piece band, and one night after the show, the other guy said, Jackie, we're going to leave the band and start our own band. I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm not a rocket scientist, but if there's 3 guys in a band and 2 of them leave the band to start their own band, that's throwing me out of the fucking band. I don't know how you look at it. But the truth was, I was playing guitar by myself and telling jokes. And then I met a comedian, and I started the guys would come to my gigs because there was no place to go on stage. Eddie Murphy came on my stage, not my stage, the stage of this little crap hole where I was playing. And Bob Nelson, Rob Bartlett, all these guys that went on to fairly big stuff. And I did that, and then started doing jokes at this place that Richard M. Dixon's White House Inn, which is a whole nother book, but he wouldn't pay us. So we started a show at a restaurant on Long Island in Huntington called Cinnamon, because I had a guitar. I had an amplifier and speakers and a microphone. And we said, listen, let us do a show, and you can keep the drinks. Just give us a slow night. Give us Tuesdays. That show went for 15 years. It grew into the East Side Comedy Club and became a whole monstrous thing. And in the course of this, since I had worked at a recording studio, after we recorded the Pot song at the recording studio, they said, wow, you're a lot of fun and you're really smart. Why don't you work here? So after a few years, I realized any schmuck can have an album. I had a comedy album after I was in comedy for 6 months. Well, it's like baking a cake. All you need is a tape and a few pictures and a few dollars, and you have an album. Now, nobody knew that. So 6 months after I'm in comedy, I got a comedy album. And what a calling card. And it was 10 or 15 years before anybody else started making things and selling them at their gigs. I used to stand at the door and sell my albums for $5. And there was nothing more exciting than signing your album. I mean, I'm signing autographs. I'm nobody. And I'm signing autographs, and the guys are goofing on me. Look at Martling with his stupid album, blah, blah, blah. And one day somebody must have said, you know what? We made $50 a piece tonight, and that son of a bitch made an extra $75 selling his stupid albums. Maybe he's not as big an idiot as we thought, right? So that led to so many things. And then I made another album, and then I made another album, and I was sending them everywhere. And one of the sets I sent to was to Howard Stern. Now, who knew? I didn't know who this guy was. It might never have gotten opened. He might never listen to him. Who knew what was going to happen? But me and Nancy, my future ex-wife, was sending them everywhere. And one day she calls up, saw that guy Howard Stern's on the phone, and do you want to come in and sit in on the show? And I was off to the races. So it was luck, but there was no intention of being a comedian. It was like, I'm not going to tell jokes on stage to try and pick up girls, because I've been doing that since 7th grade. I've been telling jokes like, hey, it doesn't matter how big your dick is. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you can make a girl laugh, you are head and shoulders on your way. And I'm sure you guys know that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris. I get rolling.
No, I love it. We got more questions. I want to get to all of our questions here. Greasy Guido says, move over, David Desmalchin. Film Threat has a new best guest ever. And How's Your Father says, Jackie, do you still do Stump the Joke Man?
I don't do it at my gigs as often, because as you can see, I have trouble shutting up. So I go on, and I don't do as many gigs as I used to. I do like one a week or one every 2 weeks, or sometimes one a month. So once I get up there, I can't shut up. I just do so many jokes that the people are so shocked. I gave up doing it at the end because people were too exhausted, because that's a whole 20-minute really fun thing. But like I said, I have a podcast called Stand Up Memories, and we went out live the other night because it was the kickoff to our 4th season. Podcasts are just like cable TV. When you say a new season, that doesn't mean you start in September and do 22 episodes.
Right.
It's like it starts when you say and ends when you say. Is it 8 episodes? Is it 20? Blah, blah, blah. But to kick it off, we went out live, and we had like 30 or 40 people in there. And I actually played Stump the Joke Man for the first time in a long time. And I forgot how much people love that. Because it's obviously the jokes people are going to ask me are the jokes that everybody knows. So of course I know them. But it's such a foolproof tool, because people ask me jokes, and one after the other, I know them, and I knock them down. On my stand-up show, I used to have guys stand up, but the girls would come on stage. And I would talk to the girls one at a time and insult them and go nuts and say all kinds of sexy, inappropriate stuff. But they knew that before they came on stage. So there was no harm, no foul. Then I do the guys, do the guys, do the guys, do the girls. And the crowd would go wild. But when somebody stumped me, the crowd went twice as wild. So there was a no-lose proposition. It was just the greatest. I have endless tapes of me doing that live, and they're on 3/4-inch tape. I mean, someday I got to monetize all this crap, but I think right now there's probably not 30 seconds that I could play that wouldn't get me locked. You
could.
I got fat girls and Asian girls and black girls and Jewish girls and short girls, and I'm taking everybody down equally. So the black girl's laughing at the Chinese girl, and the Chinese girl's laughing at the short girl. It was just, and anybody that sees me knows that I'm having fun and fooling around. The bottom line of everything is just to laugh. There is no animosity ever, except for Robin.
Are jokes like that still relevant nowadays? It seems like stand-up is about storytelling, but I kind of miss that old setup and punchline. Has that kind of gone the way of the dodo, or is it still relevant today?
I think nobody's doing that. Gilbert came on the show so many times that every time he came on, I would tell him a million jokes, and he'd go wild. And eventually that morphed into his act. His act became more jokes than anything else. But it was me and him, and now he's gone. I loved him. I did his podcast.
Yeah, Norm was kind of that
3
way
or 4
too.
times, and they were just like and Norm, of course, loved jokes too. You know, he'd take a long one and stretch it out, and jokes are just wonderful. They will always be the main stem of comedy. And to me, if somebody doesn't like jokes, you know, H. Allen Smith was a great humorist, and he wrote a book called Rude Jokes. And in the intro, he said, "Listen, I know there are people that don't like a dirty story or a dirty joke, but I think what we should do is put them in a canyon, and the rest of us should stand on the rim of the canyon and piss all over them." That's what he said. If you don't like a dirty joke, you know, you're an idiot, you know. So well, I'm still making some money doing it. You know, I saw one of the reviews for me. Jackie's still going on stage attempting to get laughs with his jokes. And I'm like, it's obvious he was never at a show. You know, like a little old lady will come up and say, "I have never laughed that hard for an hour in my life." What better compliment than that, you know? Because it's stupid. It's just jokes, you know? And I think there will always be a place for that, I hope.
Well, our audience on the chat is going nuts with questions. So we've got like 3-4 more questions. I want to, because this is amazing. But right here, a super chat from MK Solid 82 for 499 says, "Jackie, do you think Howard will ever meet with Artie again before it's too late? I think it's sad." Now, I should mention that in your Artie is in your documentary. Artie is in the doc, and he looks very different.
Let me tell you about the doc.
Yeah.
Well, he got smashed up a little bit. He wanted to be in the documentary from the word go. He did the foreword to my autobiography, Joke Man Bow to Stern. And it's funny, people say, "Oh, it's great to see you and Artie getting along again." And that's absurd, because I left the Stern Show in March of 2001. He didn't join the show until October. You know, there was no crossover. We've always been friends. And he wanted to be in the documentary, but it was, like I said, it was hard to hook up with him. And then all of a sudden he got in trouble, and he's in jail. He's in the hospital. He's in rehab. But the goddamn documentary took so long that he was out of the hospital, out of rehab, and doing well. So Ian got to meet up with him and interview him for the documentary. And he's just the greatest guy. I did his TV show and his documentary so many times. I don't really know anything about their relationship, Howard and Artie. And I don't even know where Howard's coming from. I don't know in his mind whether he looks back as Artie was such an asset to the show, and Jackie was such an asset to the show, and Billy was such an asset to the show, or whether he just thought it didn't matter. Well, I coined the term. I call us the Beatles of radio one day. And
yes,
he
I
got
remember.
not crazy, but he's like, you know, "You're an idiot. You're an idiot." And Robin's like, "Yeah, you're an idiot." Because we were. And now that has become ingrained, much to his chagrin, it's become ingrained. That's what people refer to us as, because we were. But to him, there was no Beatles of radio. You know, he was Tina Turner and everybody else backup singers. And that's how he sees it. You know, we were not on equal ground. And it didn't matter who was king of the hill or what, but it was definitely a team thing. And what exists between Artie and Howard, I don't know, but I do know Artie is doing really well, and he's in really good health. And I think he's 20 years younger than me, so he's going to be around a long, long time. And I don't know. You know, me and Howard send back and forth happy birthday every year. You know, people say, "Are you guys still friends?" Well, can you really say somebody's a friend if you haven't seen him in 20 years? I don't think so. But there's no real animosity. If somebody said to Howard, "Hey, how's your relationship with Jackie?" I'm sure he'd say, "Oh, it's fine." You know, he might not be happy about this documentary, but there is not one false word in the documentary. All it is a true tale, just like my book.
Yeah.
You know, he might not be thrilled by what he reads, but there's nothing debatable in there. You know, right. But I hope he does, you know, speak to Artie, and, you know, because Artie's an addict and he knows it. So Artie could be around another 20 years, but as we speak, he could be in trouble. So yeah, should he reach out to him? Yes. Will he? I don't know. I don't know what the Las Vegas odds are, but I'm not betting.
Right. A question from Wes Ray. Thoughts on modern stand-up comics who don't want to offend, in other words, wokeness in comedy. Do you have any comments on that? It really has affected
Well,
things when you look at. Yeah.
I have two comments. Number one, fuck them. And number two, I don't know. I don't watch comedy. I don't go to comedy. I haven't seen a comedy special. You know, people says, who's your favorite new comedian? I say Chris Rock. Okay. I mean, I'm just not in tune. I don't care to be in tune. I tell my jokes. I love my jokes. And I love when other, like Stephen Wright showed up at a show I did in Giggles in Boston a couple of years ago. And he said to Mike Clark, he said, hey, I'm doing, I don't know whether it was Letterman or whatever late night show. He said, I have a TV spot. Can I come up and do 7 or 8 minutes? And Mike said, sure. So he went up and, you know, of course, blew the room away. He's so funny. He's such a nice guy. But he stayed around and watched my whole set. And he said to me, he said, Jesus Christ, Jack, I had no idea you were that fucking funny. I thought, what a great you know, when you hear from another comic, there is no greater comment, you know, compliment than from another comic telling you that they made you laugh. And they don't even like the fact they're laughing. I'm just telling the stupidest jokes, but they're infectious, and everybody knows they're going to repeat them. Because I finally got to tell Paul McCartney a joke. I was so thrilled to my tits. I can't tell you. You know Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney is on the internet telling a dirty joke. You know that, right?
Right.
He's on the. If you Google Paul McCartney goat, it'll come up. He's in front of a green screen and he tells a classic filthy joke. Paul McCartney. Go. You'll thank me if you watch it. I swear to God.
Fear the Turtle says, Jackie, I can't imagine how it would happen, but do you have any stories of any of your stand-up sessions that bombed? Seems like every comedian has at least one.
When we our Stand-Up Memories podcast, we have comics on, you know, people we've known forever and ever. And in fact, we had a reunion last week, like 12 comics that all started together at the comic strip on 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. And I didn't really work there a lot. I worked there just enough to pass so I could do the Fort Lauderdale comic strip because it was a whorehouse. Okay. But all these guys, and, you know, and this is comic strip in 1979 and 80 was Jerry Seinfeld, Paul Reiser, Larry Miller, Dennis Wolfberg, Carol Leifer, you know, that whole gang. And these guys were all kind of part of it, and we're laughing. But of course, the stories that pop up are how bad this night was or how bad that. Nobody wants to hear, oh, let me tell you about the night I was in Detroit and I had a great set. Fuck you. You know, I was working, and it's so funny because this place, I think, shut down. And when I heard it shut down, I think in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, fuck you. But it was Charlie Goodnight's and in Raleigh. And I was not doing well. I'm a New Yorker. It's like 1983. And I'm not doing that well. And I'm having a tough time. And I had just come Shirley's in Lexington, Kentucky. And it was an old guy, an old comic. His claim to fame was playing 2 trumpets at the same time, which has nothing to do with comedy, but he's a friend of Red Fox's. And he had a couple saver lines. And it was one of them I really enjoyed. So I put it in my lexicon. Saw him on stage. It's like, you know, packed 350 people on a Saturday night at Charlie Goodnight's. A really, really great room. You know, people rave about it. And I'm not doing so hot. And as a saver line, I said, hey, the next time you people get a chance to be an audience, why don't you pass it up? Which is just a funny line, I think. Total quiet. And the guy in the corner, I could still hear him. He goes, well, the next time y'all get a chance to be a comedian, why don't y'all pass it up? and the place went batshit. And man, oh God, I don't know how I dug my way out of that. My favorite bombing story was not me. I was on the road with Rich Jenney so long ago that I was the headliner. Rich Jenney was the middle act, and he was one of the funny guys of all time. It's very early on, and we're doing a tour of the South. I think 6 cities. We're driving. Atlanta, Georgia, Columbia, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. I forget exactly, but, you know, and he was so funny. And we laughed and laughed and laughed for 6 weeks, you know. But we're in Savannah, Georgia, in this little club, little tiny club, a big window that faced, the tourists walking by so people could look in like it's a fishbowl. And I'm sitting in the back waiting to go on. And there is nothing funnier to a comedian than watching another comic bomb. It is the joy of joys. Like in the Fort Lauderdale comic strip, nobody ever came in and said, you got to see this. Bob Nelson's out there killing. No. But if somebody said, you got to see this. Minervini's on stage and he's really eating it. You couldn't get out into the showroom fast enough to watch him bomb. And it's a distinct rhythm. And you could ask any comic. A comic says something on stage that bombs. There's silence. And then there's the roar of the comedians in the back of the room that laugh so loud just to make sure that the guy on stage knows that they watched his line bomb. It's just, you can almost dance to it. So funny. So Jenny's on stage. I'm against the wall in this small club. And he starts doing Jewish stuff, talking about Jewish stuff. Now, this is Savannah, Georgia in 1983. I'm sure today in Savannah, Georgia, they don't know from a Jew. But Jenny is doing Jewish stuff. And I'm telling you, he might as well have been speaking Dutch. They didn't have any idea what he was talking about. And he was sweating. And I'm just in heaven. I'm in pig heaven. Schadenfreude. This is fantastic. And he's bombing so bad. And I swear this is true. I think he said, Jenny, I think he did this on the Tonight Show. He told this story to Jay Leno. He's doing so bad, and he's walking back and forth, and he's just pushing his head. He's just freaking. He doesn't know what he's going to do. And he turns to the crowd, and he says, do any of you people know what a bagel is? And I swear to God, a guy in the corner goes, yeah, it's a hunting dog. I fell off I just screamed. It was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. And to this day, I don't know if the guy was being funny or being serious. Who'll ever know? Who cares? But Jenny said that was one of his all-time favorite bomb stories. We've all bombed and bombed. And there's all variations of bombing. If you're a comic and you have your act, even I'm telling jokes, it's an act, okay? It's a distinct act. And very often I do the same stuff. If you come on Saturday, you're going to hear the same jokes as Friday in the same order, unless I decide to vary often, which I very often do. But if, say, you have 10 jokes, this one gets this laugh, this one gets this laugh, this one gets this laugh, then this one gets this laugh. But relatively speaking, they're usually the same. If it's a really great crowd, maybe they're all up a little bit higher on the graph, but they're always relative to each other, the same. So I'm going like a freight train I was in the basement of a place called the Upper Deck. Now you try and do that math. You never do that math. So I'm rolling. And I always taped every show I ever did. And when comics ask me, new comics say, what should I do? Tape every show and listen to it till you're sick of it. It'll tighten you up. You'll realize what doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. That's how I got my jokes so ridiculously tight. But I would listen to every joke, every show on the way home. And this was 2 hours away from where I lived. So I'm rolling like a freight train in this sweaty basement. And all of a sudden I get to this joke and they laugh, but they don't laugh the way they should. In other words, this joke, this joke, this joke, it was this joke, and it was way less than normal. Even though they laughed, it was way less than normal. And I was like, you have no time to think about it. I'm rolling along, but that was kind of strange. So I'm on the way home and I listened back and I almost drove off the road. All right. The joke is the guy goes, he's getting married on Saturday. So Friday night, his friends take him out. They get him a couple girls and they bang his brains out to the point where his penis is a mangled mess. And he doesn't know what to do. So he takes popsicle sticks and puts them along his pecker and wraps it up in adhesive tape. Okay. So they get married. And that night they're in the honeymoon suite. And the wife comes out of the bathroom stark naked. And she says, look, honey, untouched by human hands. And he pulls down his pants and says, look, not even out of the crate, which is just such a great joke, right? But it didn't get that big a laugh. I'm on my way home. I completely omitted the part about the popsicle sticks in the tape. I just didn't include that in the joke. So they just laughed because they trusted me. They're like, what's he talking? I don't want to fucking just laugh, you know. And that is just so priceless, you know. I mean, and that's happened here and there. You know, when you're going a million miles an hour, sometimes, you know, sometimes things get left on the side of the road, you know. And the Stump the Joke Man stories go on and on and on. You know, we'll do that next time. We got to do this again, you know.
Hell yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I'm not in a hurry, but I gotta give you guys a rest. I want to hear. I love the questions. I love.
Well, we've got some more comments, and I think one probably a really good wrap up question. But I also want to thank you for you were on Chrissy Mayer's podcast, and I love Chrissy Mayer. She's one of the comedians that is fearless, like yourself, doesn't care, cares about the audience, doesn't care about social media or the world. F that. So, but this I think is a really good question here. Thoughts on fitness with Nigel, as a member says, so many stories to tell. What's Jackie's high point moment in your career? High point moment.
Now, I don't know a high point moment or high point story. The high point moment in my career, I'm sure, was there's so many, but of course, you know, sitting in the audience watching the film Private Parts was like incredible. But as far as something that still amazes me is we spent an entire week broadcasting from Abbey Road Studios, from the actual room, the room where the Beatles did all of it. And to this day, I can't believe I was in that room. And just the stuff from that week was just crazy. But the small things. I was sitting on the air one day at 6 o'clock in the morning, and boom, through the door comes Sam Kinison, Jack What's-His from the old Newhart show, Pat McCormick, and Chuck McCann. Like the Mount Rushmore of funny is behind me and Fred. And Sam's like, yeah, we're in Los Angeles. And I said, you know what? I got some Coke. Let's get on my plane and go to the Howard Stern show. So they got on the plane with all the Coke and they came busted into the Stern show. I mean, that's too surreal to even believe. But there's 100 stories like that. You know, I'll tell you, there is one specific thing, and I'm glad I remembered. It was Just for Laughs in Montreal. Now, this might be in my book. I'm not sure if it is or isn't. But it's the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal in 1993. And I was doing the Dirty Show at Club Soda. And Club Soda was like a 400-seat room that just would be so packed because it was the dirty shows of the week. And you couldn't move, and it was the midnight show. And it was me, Nick DiPaolo, Robert Schimmel, a guy named Roger Rittenhouse, who, if you haven't heard of me, you got to look him up. He's amazing. And me. And it was just, it was beyond crazy. I mean, we were in the green room before the show, and Dave Chappelle was in the green room, but he wasn't Dave Chappelle yet that we know. And Roger Rittenhouse is a guy who's a comic from Denver that has no right hand. But instead of a fake hand, he has the actual metal prosthesis with the two prongs. And, you know, but he's a comic. And we're in the green room. This isn't the story. This is the prequel. We're sitting in the green room, and Paul Provenza's in the green room. And he's holding a coffee cup. He's holding this coffee cup with his prongs. And the coffee cup is empty. And all of a sudden, Provenza stands up and throws up water into the empty coffee cup.
Oh, no.
I am telling you, it was the funniest, darkest, most hysterical thing. And we're in Sundance. We're in Sundance, and we're screening The Aristocrats in somebody's room.
Yeah.
And I tell that story, and Provenza had no memory of it. I said, listen, Paul, if you don't remember the story, that's my fucking story now, all right? But that's not the story. So they asked me to do Stump the Joke Man. to end my shows. Now, you only got 22 minutes. I mean, they were short. Boom, boom, boom. And everybody's killing, of course, and the crowd's going nuts. So I did however long I could get away with, and then this Stunt the Joke Man. And I get probably 8 girls on stage as quick as I could do it. And I am telling you, they were out of central casting. They always were. There was a fat girl, there was a Jewish girl, there was a tall girl, there was a black girl, there was an Asian girl. It's almost like I had gone and picked them at random. And so I start playing. I said, all right, you guys, we got to do this quick. So if you got a joke, stand up. So however many guys stand up, and I point to them and maybe ask their name and insult them. And then they ask the joke and boom. And they ask the joke and boom. And I got everyone. And the crowd is like, they've never seen this. They don't know who the fuck I am. And they're like flabbergasted. They're easy jokes, but I'm getting them all. And after before I do the guys, I always talk to the girls. So I'm going up and down the girls and insulting the black girl and the fat girl and the one with the big boobs. Just harmless, crazy stuff. And the girl at the end was Asian. And so, of course, I'm picking on her pretty bad. And then I do all the guys. And I get done with the guys. And it's time to do the girls. And one at a time, I'm asking the girls for their joke. Boom. And I got the answer. I asked the joke and boom. I got the answer. I get to the Asian girl. And she speaks English, but not really well. Oh, no.
Sorry.
No,
sorry about that.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Her English is a little bit stilted, but you could understand her. And this is after I had tortured her. And the crowd this is the very last 5 seconds of the whole night. And the crowd is on fire. And she says, what do anniversary, toilet bowl, and clitoris have in common? And I was like, holy fuck. And I think the crowd was stalling, but because I really knew it. And I paced up and down the stage, like saying rude things just to try and buy time. And I had no idea. And I gave up and I wanted to say it again. She said, what do anniversary, toilet, and clitoris have in common? And I said, I don't know what. She says, men miss them all. I'm telling you, the fucking place exploded. I gave shirts to each of the girls. I waved goodbye to the crowd. I walked off stage. Nick DiPaolo came on stage, thanked the crowd and waved, and he walked off stage, and they were still fucking cheering. Not me, they're cheering the girl. It was the greatest thing it was the most great experience in the world. And Charles Jaffe from Rollins and Jaffe is in the back of the room. I didn't know it. And we get off and I walk back and they say, oh, that's Charles Jaffe. He wants to say hello. I'm like, wow, And I go and say, wow, Charles, what a thrill to meet you. He says, that was absolutely amazing. But let me ask you, was that set up? I'm like, no, that's just how it works. He goes, but how often do you get girls to come on stage? I said, Charles, they come on stage every time. And it's always different, and it's always that funny. And he goes, I got to tell you, that was amazing. So, of course, I think, well, I'm getting a movie tomorrow or my own sitcom. I never heard from the fucking guy. It was like it never even happened. But one of the great jokes of all time. And it was so that is that's a big high point. But the thing in the documentary with Rodney is the funniest story of all time. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. There was the gas shortage of 1980, and me and him were in Las Vegas, and his shows are only like 1/3 full, which was absurd. He goes, let's go down to the MGM. Right at the time, the MGM Grand was next to the Aladdin. Let's go to the MGM Grand. I know the maitre d'. Let's go down and fuck around a little bit. And we go down there. The maitre d' at the MGM Grand called Rodney Roger Danglefoot, which I just thought was so funny every time he said it. And of course, every time he said it, Rodney got more annoyed. So let's get out of here. And the place is a morgue. And we're walking down Las Vegas Boulevard South, going back to the Aladdin. And he says, you got to take a leak? And I said, well, you know how much I drink. Of course, I can always take a leak. He goes, come on. And instead of going into the Aladdin, into the bathrooms, like two human beings. We walk behind the Aladdin, and there's the dumpsters, and the dumpsters are the size of a small McDonald's. And he walks up to a dumpster and takes it out and starts pissing on the dumpster. What am I going to do? I'm like 45 degrees to him. There's another dumpster. I take it out, and now I'm pissing on this dumpster. And he turns to me and he says, "Welcome to the big time."
Oh my God.
I said, do you have any idea how many times I'm going to tell that story? Have a party, have a fucking party.
Right.
What do I care?
Well,
you know,
we got some more comments here. People just want to amazing stream. Hail FT, Red Dave, OBGYN Kenobi says, F you, Jackie. I love you. You're the best.
Let me tell you one thing. I got to
Sure.
say this. I answer all the email I get. And most of the emails is people saying, bullshit, you're not going to answer this. And then I answer them and they freak out. And I usually send the unpublished chapters of my book because it's a click of the pen, a click of the mouse, But if you want to email me, I'm jokeland@aol.com. But beware because I'll probably ask you to go see my movie. But it's jokeland@aol.com. And I love getting emails. And I just, especially since the documentary's out, the emails are just spectacular. And I appreciate you guys. And I want to come up. I don't want to be Don Rickles and say I love you. I'd rather say fuck you, but I appreciate everybody.
Well, thank you for the fuck you. So I'm going to email you.
No, you weren't included in the fuck you.
Oh, okay.
I got a special one for you. Fuck
thoughts
you.
on fitness with Thoughts on fitness with Nigel says, oh, wow, Chris. Thanks, Chris. I'm 60. I love Jackie. Just seeing his face makes me laugh. So there you go. He asked that last question.
I don't know how to take that, but I'm going to take it as a very positive thing. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Jackie, thank you so much. I'm going to email you later. I'll send you a copy of that issue with Howard on the cover. I think there's a picture of you in it too. So check that out. And check out Joke Man. It's on video on demand. Now you can rent it, buy it. Just check it out. Amazing documentary about the life, career, the legacy, the GOAT, the legend that is Jackie Martling. It's just an honor to talk to you.
I have a problem with that name legend because it's like not dead yet. One more thing, I do cameo.com. I've done so many of these things because I don't charge much money. So if you want a dirty joke to go to your father-in-law or your son or somebody's graduation, somebody actually sent me money the other day and said, my father is your biggest fan. Would you please do a little of Robin's book? That was the weirdest one I got. But, I do everything but send pictures of myself with my pants down, so it's cameo.com/Jackie Martling, cameo.com/Jackie Martling. And who cares about the money? I'm sitting here and if I don't have a gig for a week, I live to sit here and tell jokes into the stupid iPad. I live for it. I love it,
Love it. Well, thank you, Jackie. We got to have you back on the show. Look for my email.
I'm not going away without telling you a joke.
All right, okay? Let's hear it.
So a girl goes to the high school prom, and the next day she sends her mother a text. Dear Mom, the prom was great, but now, Mom, I'm at the beach and I'm freaking out. I got cum in my hair. So her mother texts her back, honey, I'm glad you enjoyed the prom. Listen, sometimes when you're sucking a guy's cock and he decides to shoot on your face, when he pulls his dick out of your mouth, they can't really control where that stuff is going to go. And sometimes some of it goes in your hair. But it's not a big deal. Just jump in the water. It'll wash right out. And the daughter texts back to her mother, Mom, thanks for the information, but I meant to type gum. That is so horrible. I hope that wasn't too dirty for your show.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. We're well into the show. We don't care. It's great. Jackie, thank you so much. Take care. We'll have you back. Check out the documentary Joke Man and Jackie on Cameo. So there you go.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Anytime you need me for whatever, I'm here. Do not hesitate. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. All right. Take care, Jackie. Thanks again. Later. Wow. Just
that was great.
I know. I think
That's almost an hour.
What's that?
That was almost an hour.
Jackie can do an hour. Look at that. We're going to wrap up the show. Got to thank our mods here. I got to thank, wait, where is it? Sorry.
It starred.
It starred. Thank you to the mods
Right
today,
there.
Lord Thoth, Latino Slant. Thank you to Ms. P Coffee. Why is Ms. P Coffee not on that list? Why is Ms. P Coffee not on the list? So there you go. But want to thank everybody. Also, I have an announcement to make. I have an announcement. It's a very brief announcement. Not a big deal. I gotta tell you something that's going on. Well, guess what? I am going to Anime Matsuri next week. I will be at Anime Matsuri. I am going to be I'm flying into Dallas actually to do Normal World with Quarter Black Garrett and Dave Landau. So after I do the show, so I'm going to do my show Wednesday. I'm flying out on a red eye Wednesday night. I'll be in Dallas on Thursday. I'm going to do the show with Garrett and Dave. Then I'm going to go to Houston to be at Anime Matsuri on Friday. So I'll probably do, I don't know if I'm going to do the morning show. I got to figure out what I'm doing. But I'll be doing the show on Friday, our normal Friday show. And then I will be at Anime Matsuri all weekend. Look for me there. Critical Drinker will be there. Gary Nerdrotic, Garrett. I believe they're doing FNT from there, which is going to be a lot of fun. Chrissy Mara is going to be there. She's doing a comedy show. So I'll be there all weekend. I'll be there Friday, probably Friday afternoon. Saturday and Sunday, I will be at Anime Matsuri. I have no idea why I'm invited there, but I'm probably going to find a booth, and probably on Saturday, I'll do a signing with some Attack of the Dock Blu-rays. I'll bring out a limited supply, but if you've already purchased it, bring it. I'll sign it. Or if you have not purchased it, I will be there. I take cash and or Venmo. And Alan, what else you have coming up?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, when you're at the Normal World in Dallas, be careful the chair you sit in.
Why? Why?
Because my incident happened in Dallas.
Oh, that's true. All right. Yeah. But look for me at Anime Matsuri. Just follow me on social media. I'll let people know, like, I'm at that Chris Gore on Twitter, Instagram. I'll tell you, like, I'm going to be at this booth at this time, but probably Saturday, probably the best day for me to do some kind of signing and meet and greet. And I don't know, I'm basically riding the coattails of Gary Beekler Nerdrotic, which as soon as I get off the stream, I have to pee like a racehorse right now. I was by the time Jackie joined, I already had to go. And when he talked about urinating, and then he told that story about urinating by the dumpsters, and I am squirming like I'm doing the toddler 2-year-old dance when they've got to go to the bathroom. And, like, you know what I'm talking about. Anyone who's a parent, you had a kid who's got to go to the bathroom, I got to go. So we're going to leave it there. Thank you to everybody. We'll be back next Wednesday with Hollywood on the Rocks. Then I'm on a plane to Dallas. Can't wait to see you all. Alan, do you have anything coming up this weekend?
Just my birthday is on Sunday. If you go to my Instagram, Film Threat Alan, I put a fundraiser there for Operation Underground Railroad. And if you can donate that,
oh, that's great. Well, you should do like a birthday members stream.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe just
bring it up right now. It's like, yeah, that's easy.
Maybe just celebrate your birthday with your family. Maybe just do that. But happy
We're
birthday,
seeing
Alan.
Into the Woods on Saturday.
Oh, wow. The play.
The play, yes.
Well, you will have a great time. A couple last minute super chats. Thanks for a great show today. Been such a long week, and happy to wind down with you and Alan on my last work day of the week. You guys rock, says Nicholas Vargo. Thank you, Nicholas. We appreciate you. Much appreciated the $4.99. And thoughts on fitness with Nigel for 199 pounds. Made my day, Chris. Thank you. Well, happy to do that. We appreciate it. 2 pounds there. That's awesome. Love it. So there you go. We're going to see you next week. Hollywood on the Rocks. And Alan will be 1 year older next week.
That's right.
Cool.
I'll be very old. I'm catching up to you.
Catching up to me. All right. Well, my birthday's coming up actually in early September. So look at that. Look at that. That's funny.
Sorry,
Member for 6. Sir Switch Crookington, members for 6 months. Appreciate it. All right. Happy birthday, my friend. What else? Wait, just
Yeah.
Take us
You gotta
out,
pee.
Alan.
Okay, let's get out of here.
So
Go
bad.
pee.